Chapter 552. Despicable. To think that the two of you are the supreme beings of heaven and earth. How could you be so shameless as to join forces to launch a sneak attack? How despicable. Ji-do could not help but feel a lingering fear. If he did not have the god-slaying spear, he would have died in the hands of these two juniors. The two of them were truly shameless. Regarding this, Feng Zichen and Hao Yan were unmoved. Nonsense, as an emperor, the most important thing was to be thick-skinned. It would be strange if Ji-do's words could move the two of them and make them feel ashamed. Senior is a figure of the same generation as the Tao ancestor. As juniors, we know that we are no match for him, so we joined forces to fight against Senior. Why not? Hao Qian asked in surprise. Humph! Sharp-tongued. With a cold snort, Ji-do disdained to argue with the two of them. He then said with killing intent, "Since the two of you are here, don't leave. I'll kill you first, then cut down the world tree." If he killed Feng Zichen and Hao Yan, the demon sect might be able to enter the heavenly court and regain control of the primordial world. With this thought in mind, Ji-do clenched the god-slaying spear in his hand and was about to stab the two of them. "You want to kill us? I'm afraid you alone are not enough. Demon god Ji-do, you created chaos in the primordial world. Today, it's your turn to face the tribulation. 9 heavens, 10 earths, demon-slaying array rise." It was also at this moment that Feng Zichen and Hao Qian activated the demon-slaying array that they had set up beforehand. As the name suggested, the 9 heavens, 10 earths demon-slaying array was a connate array that was specially used to deal with the demon sect. This demon-slaying array, it was a formation specially created by the Tao ancestor after he merged the Tao and was worried that the demon sect would rise again. It was extremely powerful and specialized in countering the demon sect. Since its birth, it had never been shown to anyone. It was only because Hao Qian had been by Tao ancestor Hongjuan's side all year round that he could learn some of the ingenuity of this formation from him. That's right, this formation was provided by Hao Yan. Feng Zichen had a connate array, but there was no array that was specially used to deal with the demon sect other than the celestial sect. Rumble. Following the activation of the formation, the heavens and the earth changed. Layers of heavenly palaces appeared and continents were born. They formed the layout of the 9 heavens and 10 earths, trapping Ji-do within. Dong! 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 It was as if the thunder god was beating a drum. In the 9 heavens, demon-slaying divine lightning appeared, boundless and boundless, locking onto the demon god Ji-do from afar. At the same time, demon-slayer divine flames gushed out from the ground and swept towards demon god Ji-do in an endless stream. This was Feng Zichen and Hao Tian's killer move. The previous attack was just a smokescreen. Both of them could imagine that the demon sect would definitely attack the world tree. The demon sect was not a fool. How could they not think of someone coming to stop them? Ji-do's previous reaction had already proved this point. If he hadn't been on guard in advance, Ji-do wouldn't have had time to react in the face of their sneak attack. Even if he didn't die, he would be seriously injured. Therefore, Feng Zichen and Hao Qian made 2 preparations. On the one hand, they set up the demon-slaying formation in advance. On the other hand, they hid in the void to prepare for a sneak attack. One of them was in the open, while the other was in the dark. Small tricks. In the demon-slaying formation, Ji-do looked at the demon slaying divine lightning and the surging demon slaying divine flames with disdain. With a sweep of the god-slaying spear in his hand, a sharp killing intent was released and swept in all directions. In the next moment, the lightning in the sky was shattered and the divine flames were extinguished. Only the sharp killing intent remained, wantonly destroying everything in the 9 heavens, 10 earths. Ha! With the god-slaying spear, even a saint would dare to fight with me. How can a mere Xiantian grand formation do anything to me? Junior, let's see how I'll break your formation. With the god-slaying spear in hand, Jiddu's strength could be said to have increased greatly. Even if the real primordial chaos Daluo Jinxian came, if he didn't have a connate cardinal treasure in his hand, he wouldn't dare to say that he could really defeat him. Therefore, Jiddu could be said to be at the peak of his strength since he was born. However, the 9 heavens 10 earths demon-slaying formation was, after all, a formation created by a Taoist ancestor after Tao unification. It could be said to be mysterious and unfathomable. How could it be so easy to deal with? After the Taoist ancestor's Tao unification, although his realm was still primordial chaos, his strength was not. That was the realm of heavenly Tao, even stronger than ordinary chaos demon gods. A formation created in such a state was absolutely terrifying. Boom, 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 the god-slaying spear in Jiddu's hand was constantly waving. First, it pierced through the 9 heavens, then pierced through the 10 earths. Soon, the space created by the demon-slaying formation was smashed into pieces. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before the demon-slaying formation was broken by Jiddu now. At the moment when the 9 heavens 10 earths was completely destroyed, Feng Zichen and Hao Qian stepped forward together, stepped into the demon-slaying formation, and activated the formation with all their strength. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Under their full strength, the heavens and the earth returned to chaos, and a strange chaotic space was formed. It was boundless, ancient, and vast. Rumble. The chaotic chi surged, setting off huge waves, and slammed toward demon god Jiddu, trying to assimilate me with the chaos. What a joke! In the chaos, Jiddu raised the god-slaying spear and stabbed it downward. Violent killing intent swept out, forming blood-red ripples, and shattered the chaotic chi. Looking around, there was blood-red killing intent everywhere in the chaos. They were tightly entangled with the chaotic chi to prevent it from condensing. Kill. Seeing this, Feng Zichen and Hao Qian's expressions didn't change, and they continued to activate the formation. Rumble. Suddenly, there was the sound of thunder in the depths of the chaos. The atmosphere became oppressive at this moment, as if a great terror was about to descend. Rumble. Rumble. The sound of thunder from the depths of the chaos became more rapid and vast, and heaven and earth became more and more oppressive. That is, in the demon-slaying formation. Jiddu suddenly felt a chill and couldn't help but look up. Right at this moment, a wisp of purple light appeared from within the chaos. That was thunder, purple thunder, heavenly thunder of purple heaven. Seeing this, Jiddu's expression changed drastically, and there was panic on his face for the first time. The heavenly thunder of purple heaven, also known as the thunder of heavenly punishment, was the supreme superpower of Tao ancestor Hongjun, and it was also the strongest heavenly thunder of the untainted land. Note, Dutian heavenly thunder is the top thunder technique in the chaos. Its power was enough to severely injure a sage. Back then, many demon sect experts had died under the heavenly thunder of purple heaven, and Jiddu had a deep memory of it. Now that he saw the heavenly thunder of purple heaven again, the fear of the past surfaced in his heart again. How could Jiddu not be afraid? Summoning the heavenly thunder of purple heaven was the strongest technique of the 9 heavens, 10 earths demon-slaying formation. It was also because of this that Feng Zichen and Hao Qian had the confidence to kill Jiddu Rumble. The heavenly thunder of purple heaven came quickly. When Jiddu first saw it, there was only a purple light in the chaos, but when he came back to his senses, the heavenly thunder of purple heaven was ready. The entire chaos, it had been dyed purple by the heavenly thunder of purple heaven. Rumble. A bright purple light flashed, and the heavenly thunder of purple heaven, which was dozens of feet in size, suddenly fell and struck at Jiddu. Break for me. Looking at the heavenly thunder of purple heaven, Jiddu subconsciously clenched the god-killing spear in his hand and stabbed at it with all his strength. Bang! Blood and purple intertwined, and killing intent and thunder competed. wisps of purple thunder followed the god-killing spear's body and attacked Ji-Du's body. Sizzle, the violent thunder struck, and the black clothes on Ji-Du's body only lasted for a moment before they were torn into countless pieces. Without the protection of the black clothes, the heavenly thunder of purple heaven directly poured into Ji-Du's body, crazily destroying everything in his body, including his primordial spirit and true spirit. In the blink of an eye, Ji-Du's body became a piece of charcoal. However, it was a pity that Ji-Du looked miserable from the outside. But in fact, he did not suffer any serious injuries. The heavenly thunder of purple heaven was powerful, but the god-killing spear was not weak either. After being weakened by the god-killing spear, the heavenly thunder of purple heaven that struck Ji-Du did not have much power left. Other than making his appearance look miserable, it did not leave any fatal injuries. Again, seeing that the heavenly thunder of purple heaven was effective, Feng Ziqian and Hao Qian activated the array again and evolved another heavenly thunder of purple heaven and continued to strike Ji-Du. Boom, boom, boom. Bolts of heavenly thunder of purple heaven struck down, and even with the god-killing spear in front of him, Ji-Du gradually could not hold on. It was not easy to activate a primordial treasure. Every time he blocked a heavenly thunder of purple heaven, the Dharma power in Ji-Du's body was rapidly decreasing. When his Dharma power was exhausted, it would be the time of his death. In terms of Dharma power, Feng Ziqian and Hao Qian could not compare to Ji-Du, but as the supremes of heaven and earth, they could receive the blessings of heaven and earth, and their Dharma power was endless, far from what Ji-Du could compare to. Competing in consumption, the two of them could drag Ji-Du to death. Two emperors. This move is a little too much. Just when Ji-Du's Dharma power was about to be exhausted, an incomparably deep voice suddenly came from the void. And at the same time as this voice, an extremely mysterious divine power appeared. Swish, as if eternal night had descended. Heaven and earth silently fell into darkness, and everything fell into silence. At this moment, heaven and earth lost its voice, and everything was silent. Crack! Crack! In the situation where Feng Ziqian and Hao Qian did not react at all, a strange power attacked, and the 9 heavens and 10 earths demon slayer formation suddenly disintegrated, and Ji-Du took the opportunity to escape. Oh no! Seeing this, Feng Ziqian was shocked and hurriedly took out the primordial treasure Zhoxing map. Swish, 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 stars appeared one after another, and bits of starlight scattered, piercing through the darkness and bringing light. Mahakala demon god. At the moment when the night disappeared, Feng Ziqian heard Hao Qian's exclamation, Mahakala demon god. Obviously, this was the identity of the person who came. Following Hao Qian's line of sight, Feng Ziqian saw a black shadow beside Ji-Du. Yes, that's right. This person was a black shadow. He did not transform into a primordial Tao body like other creatures of the primordial world. Instead, he walked in the primordial world with his original body, like a primordial beast. This was an exception. It also meant that the Tao he cultivated was not the primordial world's Tao, and had nothing to do with Pangu. However, the primordial world creatures' bodies must be inextricably linked to Pangu, and they could not exceed the limits of the 81 Tao forms. This person was not among them, which meant that he was either the reincarnation of the Chaos Demon God, or the successor of the Chaos Demon God. His background was quite impressive. Mahakala Demon, sect greets the 2 imperial emperors. The deep voice came from the black shadow, and it clearly entered the ears of Feng Ziqian and Hao Qian. Zi Wei, Hao Qian, greets the senior. Feng Ziqian and Hao Qian bowed respectfully. This was a true senior who had attained the Tao in the early primordial era. He had once participated in the calamity of the primordial world and was one of the oldest primordial god fiends. Legend had it that a long, long time ago, when the primordial world had just been created, Zhoxing had not yet been born, and the world was dark. At that time, there was only night and no day in the primordial world. Over time, in the endless night, a great god was born. He was the embodiment of the night, the Mahakala demon god. One could imagine how noble such a background was. If the appearance of the day had not been, with the identity of the Mahakala demon god, he could be said to be the embodiment of the sky. He was also a natural celestial emperor. Unfortunately, with the appearance of the sun, half of his luck evaporated, so he had no chance of becoming the celestial emperor. However, this did not affect his strength. As one of the oldest primordial god fiends in the primordial world, the power of the Mahakala demon god was beyond doubt. He was the earliest Daluo Jinxian of the primordial world, a pioneer on the path of the great Tao. The current cultivation realm of the primordial world was perfected by the Mahakala demon god and other ancient primordial god fiends. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were Tao ancestors. For the sake of full attendance, I'll change it later. I hope everyone can understand. One could imagine how noble such a background was. If the appearance of the day had not been, with the identity of the Mahakala demon god, he could be said to be the embodiment of the sky. He was also a natural celestial emperor. Unfortunately, with the appearance of the sun, half of his luck evaporated, so he had no chance of becoming the celestial emperor. However, this did not affect his strength. As one of the oldest primordial god fiends in the primordial world, the power of the Mahakala demon god was beyond doubt. He was the earliest Daluo Jinxian of the primordial world, a pioneer on the path of the great Tao. One could imagine how noble such a background was. If the appearance of the day had not been, with the identity of the Mahakala demon god, he could be said to be the embodiment of the sky. He was also a natural celestial emperor. Unfortunately, with the appearance of the sun, half of his luck evaporated, so he had no chance of becoming the celestial emperor. However, this did not affect his strength. As one of the oldest primordial god fiends in the primordial world, the power of the Mahakala demon god was beyond doubt. He was the earliest Daluo Jinxian of the primordial world, a pioneer on the path of the great Tao. One could imagine how noble such a background was. If the appearance of the day had not been, with the identity of the Mahakala demon god, he could be said to be the embodiment of the sky. He was also a natural celestial emperor. Unfortunately, with the appearance of the sun, half of his luck evaporated, so he had no chance of becoming the celestial emperor. However, this did not affect his strength. As one of the oldest primordial god fiends in the primordial world, Chapter 553. In terms of cultivation and status, the Mahakala demon god and the demon ancestor Rahu were on the same level. There was not much difference. Moreover, due to their doctrines, the demon sect was not favored by heaven and earth. Although they had a chance to prosper, they could not last as long as the Shen sect. The demon sect was extremely arrogant and had the momentum to sweep through the primordial world. However, once the chaos calmed down and the saints returned from outer space, the situation that the demon sect had created with great difficulty would be destroyed in an instant. As the top expert of the primordial world, the Mahakala demon god could not understand this. Even so, he still chose to join the demon sect. There must be a problem. Perhaps the Mahakala demon god and the demon ancestor Rahu had reached some unspeakable agreement in secret. Otherwise, even if the Mahakala demon god wanted to join a force, he should join the Shen sect, which had a promising future. Instead of joining the demon sect, which had the responsibility of destroying the primordial world and could never truly prosper. Wasn't this equivalent to being a eunuch for 12 years and joining the national army for 49 years? Emperors, since I'm here, I won't return empty-handed. So you should leave, lest you lose your lives in vain. Looking at Feng Zichen and Hao Tian, the Mahakala demon god said very calmly. His words showed that he did not care about the two of them at all. It was as if he was not facing the two supreme beings of heaven and earth, but some random cat or dog. His tone was shockingly arrogant. Even a saint would not dare to say that. Boasting, arrogant. Hearing that, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian's expressions changed, and they were furious. Not to mention their identities, just in terms of cultivation. One was a half-step primordial chaos, and the other was a perfected sage-to-be. They could be said to be the peak of the primordial world. With such cultivation, they could be considered top experts at any time. When had they ever been looked down upon like that? No, this was not looking down on them. This was simply a deliberate humiliation. As long as the Mahakala demon god took the two of them seriously, he would not say such contemptuous words. Why? You don't believe me? Looking at their expressions, the Mahakala heavenly demon god smiled and did not explain. Black chi surged around his body and condensed into a black palm, reaching toward the two of them. He wanted to prove with his actions that what he said was true. Feng Zichen and Hao Tian were nothing in front of him. Rumble. The Mahakala, heavenly demonic god, pressed down with his palm, and boundless darkness attacked. Light was extinguished, and the world seemed to have fallen into eternal night at this moment. Everything fell silent. In the darkness, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian encountered the greatest danger. In their perception, the great Tao, the laws, and the spiritual energy had all disappeared. Only the endless night remained. Loneliness, despair, and other negative emotions surged into their hearts, shaking their Taoist hearts. Even the great path that they had painstakingly cultivated was showing signs of decline at this moment. This was the tribulation of Tao decline. It was a calamity even more terrifying than the 5 decay of the celestial being. Once the great Tao declined, its strength would definitely decline as well. When the great Tao decayed, its life would come to an end, and there was no way to escape. Primordial chaos, Daluo Jinxian. The Mahakala, heavenly demon god, has attained Tao. With just one strike, the only one who could make the two of them unable to resist was the primordial chaos, Daluo Jinxian. And it was not an ordinary primordial chaos, Daluo Jinxian. He must be an expert among them. At this moment, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian suddenly realized that the other party's strength had already transcended heaven and earth and reached the level of Tao. It was far from what they could contend with. In the dark night, the power of despair grew stronger and stronger. It was about to invade Feng Zichen and Hao Tian's Taoist hearts and take them down with it, completely falling into eternal sleep. Senior is indeed a senior. His strength is indeed far beyond ours. But if you think you can kill the two of us with this, you are underestimating us too much. Seeing that the situation was getting more and more dangerous, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian did not hold back and burst out together. Wisps of sacred Tao light bloomed from their bodies, emitting extremely shocking fluctuations. It pushed the two of them to the level of primordial chaos, Daluo Jinxian, in one fell swoop. The Tao light was sacred and extremely bright. Like the sun, it tore through the long night, drove away the darkness, and brought light to heaven and earth again. At the same time, wherever the light passed, all despair, loneliness, and other negative emotions quickly melted like snow exposed to the sun. Is this the power of rank? The Mahakala, heavenly demon god, stared at the two people who had escaped and said with some surprise, "The most powerful thing about Feng Zichen and Hao Tian was not their cultivation realm, nor was it their magic treasures, but their rank. The position of Celestial Emperor and the position of Great Emperor Zue were the top ranks in the untainted land. What they possessed was no less than the power of primordial chaos, Daluo Jinxian. The supremes of heaven and earth had their own majesty. The weak, how could they control heaven and earth and rule the untainted land? Therefore, no matter who it was, even if it was a mortal with no cultivation, from the moment they became the supremes of heaven and earth, they would automatically obtain power that was comparable to primordial chaos, Daluo Jinxian. Feng Zichen and Hao Tian dared to face the demon sect, and it was not that they did not have the capital to be arrogant. It's getting more and more interesting. The two half-step primordial chaos suddenly became two primordial chaos Daluo-Jinxian. Instead of being afraid, the Mahakala, heavenly demon god, became even more excited. Previously, he did not take the two of them seriously at all. The current situation was worthy of him being a little more serious. F*CK a plant. This Mahakala, heavenly demon god, is too good at pretending. Seeing the Mahakala, heavenly demon god's performance, Feng Zichen was really speechless. He had been in the untainted land for so long, but he had never seen such an arrogant person. Even the demon ancestor Rahu was not as good as him. These were two primordial chaos Daluo-Jinxian. They were the strongest existences known now. Can't you take this seriously? Why are you acting so disdainful? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to set off your strength? It was not that Feng Zichen looked down on the Mahakala, heavenly demon god, but how long had it been since the primordial era? No matter how strong he was, there had to be a limit. At most, he was at the 7th or 8th level of primordial chaos. As for existences above the 9th level of primordial chaos, only the Tao ancestor, the demon ancestor, and Yang Mei were known. Tao ancestor Hongjuan's Tao integration was equivalent to the heavenly Tao assisting his cultivation. Naturally, his cultivation progress was extremely fast. The demon ancestor Rahu inherited the legacy of the chaos demon god, so his cultivation progress was naturally not slow. There was no need to mention great immortal Yang Mei. Her realm in her previous life was unfathomable, far exceeding the primordial chaos Tao realm. Increasing her cultivation level was as simple as eating and drinking to her. Her realm was said to be the highest in the untainted land, even above the Tao ancestor and the demon ancestor. These three connate great gods had such conditions to cultivate above the 9th level of primordial chaos. But what did the Mahakala, heavenly demon god, have? He did not have anything. Feng Zichen dared to say that unless he was the reincarnation of the chaos demon god, his realm would definitely not exceed the 3rd level of primordial chaos. The conditions of the primordial era were there. Without the support of the origin of heaven and earth, his cultivation progress was imaginable. One had to know that even a saint, without the support of the providence of heaven and earth, would find it extremely difficult to improve. He, the Mahakala, heavenly demon god, was barehanded. Could he be stronger than a saint who was supported by the heavenly Tao? As for the Mahakala being the reincarnation of the chaos demon god, that would be a joke. The reincarnation of the chaos demon god was actually in such dire straits that he had to be a fighter for the demon ancestor Rahu. If Feng Zichen were him, he would probably be too ashamed to face anyone. He, a primordial chaos expert. Then it will be interesting to kill him. With a low laugh, the Mahakala, heavenly demon god, attacked. He waved his hands continuously, and laws spread out, distorting heaven and earth. The night came silently. Feng Zichen and Hao Tian seemed to fall into the abyss as their bodies kept falling. How did he do it? He hurriedly took out the Zhouxing painting to stabilize his sinking body. Feng Zichen's expression was a little heavy. This divine ability was too strange. He really did not notice it at all beforehand, and he fell for it just like that. It was also fortunate that the Mahakala, heavenly demon god, strength was limited and was not much stronger than the two of them. Otherwise, just this search alone would be enough to destroy the two of them. Break. On the other side, Hao Tian held a long sword in his hand and slashed straight ahead, wanting to break through the night. Rumble. As the sword light crisscrossed, the 33 heavens appeared one after another, deducing the power of the world and shattering all the darkness. Unfortunately, although Hao Tian's sword was powerful, it did not have the slightest effect. Outside the night, it was still night. It was boundless and had no end. Boom! Seeing that Hao Tian's attack was ineffective, Feng Zichen suddenly shook the Zhouxing painting. In an instant, hundreds of millions of stars appeared, forming a vast galaxy that hung above the sky. The galaxy was vast and boundless. It rushed forward, intending to cover the entire sky and find the end of the night. However, although the galaxy was vast, compared to the night sky, the stars could only be used as decorations. How could they be compared to it? Foam Zichen's probing this time was destined to be fruitless. Break. His heart sank slightly. Foam Zichen immediately made a decision and directly detonated the galaxy. Suddenly, hundreds of millions of stars exploded together, and endless brilliance was born. It was more dazzling than the sun, completely illuminating this side of the world. This is when he saw the true face of this side of the world. Foam Zichen's eyes could not help but shrink, and his heart sank. As far as the eye could see, there was a vast and boundless black curtain above their heads. All the darkness came from there. Just now, they were sucked into this black curtain, which was why they were unable to escape. This is a Khanate cardinal treasure. How could the Mahakala demon god have a Khanate cardinal treasure? Looking at the black curtain, Hao Yan's face was filled with shock. If he remembered correctly, according to the information he received from the Purple Cloud Palace, the Mahakala demon god should not have a Khanate cardinal treasure. His natal magic treasure should be a supreme grade Khanate spirit treasure, the Black Sky Divine Banner. But what was with the Khanate cardinal treasure in front of him? Where did the Mahakala demon god get it? Moreover, when did Khanate cardinal treasures become so worthless that they could be encountered so easily? Didn't the Tao ancestors say that? In the primordial world, there were only a few Khanate cardinal treasures. They could not be obtained without a supreme opportunity. But what was the situation now? The 4 people present, except for him, could be said to have a Khanate cardinal treasure. Could it be that the Tao ancestor was lying to him? Or could it be that he had come to a fake, primordial world? At this moment, Hao Yan could not help but fall into self-doubt. Speaking of which, he was unlucky. There were not many Khanate cardinal treasures outside the celestial sect of wonders. But today he had encountered almost all of them. Phew, fellow Taoist Hao Yan, I'm afraid the 2 of us will be in danger today. If you still have any trump cards, hurry up and use them. If you're too late, you won't have the chance to use them. Staring at the black curtain, Foam Zichen took a deep breath and said to Hao Yan with an unprecedentedly solemn expression. Hao Yan could not recognize the origin of this item, but he recognized it. It was because he recognized it that he had a bad feeling. This magic treasure was called the Curtain of Night. It was not a Khanate cardinal treasure, but a supreme grade Chaos spirit treasure. Of course, the supreme grade Chaos spirit treasure referred to the previous Curtain of Night. The current Curtain of Night had been severely injured in the heaven-splitting tribulation. Its level was barely maintained in the ranks of Chaos spirit treasure. But even so, its power was extremely terrifying. It was comparable to a middle-grade Khanate cardinal treasure. As for why Foam Zichen could recognize the origin of the Curtain of Night, that was because he had seen this magic treasure before. Chaos Spirit Treasure, Curtain of Night. It was the eternal spiritual treasure of the Dark Night Demon God. And Foam Zichen, who had the brand of the Chaos Demon God, was extremely familiar with the Chaos Demon God. Naturally, he could recognize the magic treasure in their hands. Moreover, in Panga's left eye, Foam Zichen had experienced Panga's life. He had even witnessed with his own eyes how the Curtain of Night was shattered by Panga's axe. How could he not recognize its origin? Although the current Curtain of Night had fallen a lot because of the injury, its origin had not changed. As a result, Foam Zichen recognized its origin at a glance. Since the treasure in front of him was the Curtain of Night, then the identity of the Mahakala demon god was self-evident. The Chaos demon god Dark Night. Although the Mahakala demon god was powerful, he could not control the Chaos spirit treasure before the Dark Night demon god died. Because he did not have the ability to erase the mark left by the Dark Night demon god in the Curtain of Night. Besides, even without the mark of the Dark Night demon god, the curtain of night could not recognize the Mahakala demon god as its master. If the curtain of night was shattered, just like the chaos bead, it would turn into countless innate spiritual treasures. The great, dark, heavenly demon god would be able to repair it with ease. However, the curtain of night only fell in level and was not completely shattered. The Mahakala demon god had no reason to reclaim the curtain of night, because the curtain of night looked down on him. The chaos spirit treasure also had its own pride. How could he, who had followed the dark night demon god for so many years, take a fancy to the Mahakala demon god who was weak? Moreover, the dark night demon god was not dead. How could the curtain of night submit to others? Moreover, looking at the way the Mahakala demon god activated the curtain of night, it did not look like it had just obtained the curtain of night. All of these meant that the Mahakala demon god in front of him was one of the 3,000 chaos demon gods, the dark night demon god. Only he could make the chaos spirit treasure curtain of night submit so willingly. Chapter 554. However, judging from the current strength of the Mahakala demon god, he should not be the reincarnation of the dark night demon god, but had been possessed by the dark night demon god. If not, his cultivation level would not be so low after such a long time had passed since the beginning of ancient times. Thinking back to the recent time when the chaos demon god took the opportunity of the heavenly Tao's negligence and was preparing to possess the great mediums of the primordial world, it was not hard to imagine that the Mahakala demon god had been unlucky. It was because he had fused with a part of the true spirit of the dark night demon god that the strength of the Mahakala demon god had soared in a short period of time. He had broken through the layers of shackles and cultivated to the 4th level of primordial chaos. Otherwise, no matter how heaven-defying the opportunity of the Mahakala demon god was, it was impossible for his realm to reach such a level. He could even fight 1 against 2 and still have the upper hand. The dark night demon god had possessed the Mahakala demon god and completed the plan of rebirth. He had even replaced the identity of the Mahakala demon god in the primordial world and walked in the world with his face. And the chaos spirit treasure darkness, after sensing its master's aura, would return to his side without the summoning of the dark night demon god. In this way, the dark night demon god had completely returned. It was a pity that the Mahakala demon god had cultivated for hundreds of millions of years for nothing. It was really sad and lamentable. What happened next was much simpler. As the spokesperson of the chaos demon god in the primordial world, of course, it was also possible that Rahu himself was the reincarnation of the chaos demon god. In short, there was a great connection between the demon god and the chaos demon god. According to this, the demon sect and the chaos demon god were also inextricably linked. Therefore, when the demon god Rahu learned that the dark night demon god had returned, he asked him to help the demon sect deal with the celestial sect of wonders. How could the dark night demon god stand by and do nothing? In this way, it led to the current situation. Sigh. Although he had expected this, Feng Zichen still sighed when he saw it with his own eyes. What kind of expert was the Mahakala demon god? He had once dominated an era and had the bearing of a celestial emperor. However, he was gone just like that, and his body was taken over by someone else. It really made people sigh. In fact, Feng Zichen had a rough idea of how the Mahakala demon god was taken over by the darkness demon god. Others might be able to withstand the possession of a chaos fiend celestial, or even kill it. However, against the dark night demonic god, the great dark heavens demon god could be said to be completely helpless. It could even be said that the great dark sky demon god was the vessel of the dark night demon god. Speaking of which, the Mahakala fiend celestial had asked for it. It was formed from the remains of the dark night demon god, so it was naturally countered by the dark night demon god. He should hurry up and cultivate the primordial heavenly Tao to erase the traces left on him by the dark night demon god. Instead, he recklessly cultivated the Tao of demon god and deepened the demon god brand in his body so that he could transform into a chaos demon god. Wasn't that just courting death? If the Dark Knight demon god had really fallen, there was nothing wrong with the Mahakala demon god's actions. This was a grand Tao. As long as he cultivated it step by step, he might be able to become the new Dark Knight demon god in the end and reach the highest realm. However, the problem was that the Dark Knight demon god was not dead. Cultivate his Tao, imitate his body, trace his origin, the Mahakala demon god had put everything on the Dark Knight demon god. He was simply making himself into a replica of the Dark Knight demon god. In this way, after the Dark Knight demon god broke the seal, it would be easy for him to take over the Mahakala demon god. In fact, the Dark Knight demon god did not even need to take the initiative to attack. He only needed to appear in front of the Mahakala demon god. Under the attraction of the same Tao, the Mahakala demon god would uncontrollably let go of everything to help the Dark Knight demon god and replace him. Those who imitate me live, those who imitate me die. That was how it was. Speaking of which, the Mahakala demon god had gotten what he wanted. Didn't he want to become the Dark Knight demon god? Now he had completely integrated into the Dark Knight Great Tao and became a part of the Dark Knight demon god. He had achieved his dream. When the ancestor of the Great Tao was still alive, he cultivated his Tao and tried to replace his existence. Such behavior was destined to become someone else's wedding dress from the beginning. It was so stupid that it could not be any more stupid. He could be said to be the best at courting death in the Eldritch world. One had to know that Feng Zichen was worried about this. That was why he did not dare to completely turn himself into Pangu. His physical body, primordial spirit, and even true spirit were all transforming into Pangus. However, his foundation, the Tao that he cultivated, was completely different from Panga's Tao. This difference created the essential difference between Feng Zichen and Pangu. Therefore, he did not need to worry that he would be inspired by Pangu and automatically become his incarnation. He was him, Feng Zichen of the human race, the one-of-a-kind Feng Zichen. Even if he added the word Pangu before his name, it only meant that he was from Panga's lineage, not that he was a part of Pangu. If he wanted to reach the supreme realm and reach the end of the great Tao, he had to walk his own Tao. Following the Tao of others would save him effort, but he would never reach the peak of the great Tao. Not bad, but if you want to escape from my hands with this, it's far from enough. Seeing the two of them tear apart the long night, the Dark Knight demon god was a little surprised, but that was all. Obviously, he did not think that Feng Zichen and Hao Tian could escape from his hands if they worked together. You guys, have you seen the real Eternal Night? A slightly profound voice came from the Dark Knight demon god's mouth. Then, without waiting for Feng Zichen and Hao Tian to react, he flipped his hand and the endless night rolled, giving birth to endless darkness that swept toward the two of them. The Eternal Night was the precursor of the immeasurable calamity. In the Eternal Night, all Daos were destroyed and the laws did not exist. Everything would fall into despair, and living beings would disappear. It was obvious how terrifying it was. Danger, extreme danger, seeing the darkness surging toward them. Feng Zichen and Hao Tian felt a chill all over their bodies, and they could not help but feel a great fear in their hearts. The darkness in front of them was enough to threaten their lives. We can't let it get close. At this moment, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian made a decision almost at the same time. They could not let this attack fall. The stars in the sky, the light of the galaxy, the god of Pangu, all of you, strengthen me. Break. Terrified, Feng Zichen directly used his strongest method to attract the power of the boundless starry sky to strengthen himself. In an instant, Feng Zichen's aura skyrocketed again, and he broke through to the third level of the primordial chaos realm. At the same time, in the distant boundless starry sky, in a mysterious and unpredictable space, the god of Panga's shadow, who was swallowing the chaos chi from the chaos, suddenly opened his eyes and disappeared. In a trance, Feng Zichen felt an extremely vast and mighty power suddenly descend and wrap around him. All kinds of mysterious trajectories flashed before his eyes, and the power of heaven and earth strengthened his body at this moment, raising his cultivation by another level, allowing him to enter the fourth level of the primordial chaos realm. This realm was just on par with the dark night demon god. Unfortunately, this was not the boundless starry sky, and Zhou was far from recovering to his peak, so the support he could give to Feng Zichen was extremely limited. Otherwise, with the power of the stars in the sky, Feng Zichen's realm would at least be raised to the seventh level of the primordial chaos realm. In addition to the support of the god of Pangu, it was enough to let him erupt with power that was not inferior to the ninth level of the primordial chaos realm. If that was really the case, Feng Zichen did not need to be afraid of the dark night demon god, as he could suppress him alone. Zhou painting go. At this moment, as Feng Zichen's strength increased to the fourth level of the primordial chaos realm, and he activated the Zhou painting, the power that erupted was far from what it was before. Rumble. The star chart shook and billions of stars appeared. Each star represented a world, and they were connected to each other, forming a vast and magnificent supreme realm. Painting sky splitting. As the stars rotated, billions of worlds shook together and endless power poured out, forming a vast torrent that crushed everything and collided with the surging darkness. Bang! Terrifying power spread. The universe shook and the universe roared. The great Tao was in chaos, and the divine chains of order were broken inch by inch. It was as if heaven and earth did not exist at this moment. When the fluctuations stopped, the bright starlight and the dark night were tightly entangled with each other. No one could do anything to the other, and they were in a stalemate. The night could not descend. The galaxy could not rush up. Feng Zichen and the dark night demon god were in a stalemate. At this moment, Hao Tian also erupted. The power of heaven and earth. Add to my body. As soon as he finished speaking, the 33 heavens shook together, and an incomparably vast power descended from the sky and poured into Hao Tian's body, directly raising his realm to the third level of the primordial chaos realm. And this was not the end. After the heaven realm, the entire Eldritch world also shook. Next, in the Eldritch world, countless famous mountains, great rivers, and blessed lands, regardless of whether they had an owner or not, all of them had to separate and pour into Hao Tian's body. Even the nether realm, which had long been sealed, separated a trace of origin and added to Hao Tian's body the moment Hao Tian's voice fell. With a command, heaven and earth obeyed. This was the Celestial Emperor, the supreme ruler of the Eldritch world. He was more powerful than a saint or even a Tao ancestor. At this moment, Hao Tian's cultivation directly entered the fifth level of the primordial chaos realm, surpassing Feng Zichen and the dark night demon god in one fell swoop. This was also the reason why Hao Tian had just become the Celestial Emperor and had not established his prestige in the Eldritch world, so his reputation was not prominent. Otherwise, with the support of the power of heaven and earth, Hao Tian's realm could be even stronger. As for how strong it was hard to say. In theory, the upper limit of the Eldritch world was there, and the upper limit of the Celestial Emperor's strength was there. The Celestial Emperor represented the strongest in the Eldritch world. How much strength could be exerted completely depended on the standard of the Celestial Emperor. If he was the true Lord of heaven and earth in the Eldritch world, needless to say, he would definitely be the strongest in the Eldritch world. If he was just a puppet and his power was completely taken over, then the strength he could exert would be at the level of an ordinary primordial chaos realm. No matter what, he was still a Celestial Emperor. Even if he was only a Celestial Emperor in name, he was still a Celestial Emperor. No matter how weak he could not be that weak. He was a peak that hundreds of millions of living beings could not reach. Therefore, in the future, how much of the Heavenly Emperor's strength Hao Tian could unleash would all depend on his means. Suppress. Hao Tian formed a seal with both hands, and the shadow of the 33 heavens appeared, turning into the shadow of a 33 heavens pagoda in midair. Endless creation, Qi hung down, spinning and suppressing toward the night sky. This was the primordial pagoda of Mi Luo Heaven, also known as the Treastrimsa Creation Pagoda. It was a primordial treasure that was born in the 33 heavens in the distant future. Now, Haotian, as the celestial emperor, used a supreme divine ability to summon a projection of himself in the future to suppress the enemy. There were 33 layers of his body, and each layer corresponded to a heavens. And in each layer of the heavens, a primordial spirit treasure was born to be used as a suppressor. This supreme treasure represented the luck of the heavenly realm, and it contained endless good fortune. A primordial treasure contained 33 primordial spirit treasures. Once it was born, it would be the top primordial treasure, second only to the 3 great heaven-opening treasures. This was a primordial treasure that belonged to the celestial emperor. Thinking about it, it made sense. As the ruler of the primordial world, how could the celestial emperor not have a primordial treasure in his hands? Moreover, with the richness of the heaven realm's origin, it should have given birth to a primordial treasure. Rumble. The primordial pagoda of Mi Luo Heaven pressed down, as if the 33 heavens were pressing down. The creation chi was vast and mighty, shattering the eternal night. Buzz, 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 the eternal night shattered, and the chaos spirit treasure night suffered a backlash. After trembling for a while, it suddenly shrank, turning into a black flag and returning to the hands of the dark night demon god. Hiss! The power of this pagoda is so strong. Seeing this scene, Feng Zichen could not help but frown. Just the power displayed by this illusory figure was almost comparable to the heavenly cycle star map. If its main body was born, how powerful would it be? But shock was shock. Feng Zichen was actually not envious, because he knew that this powerful primordial treasure, the primordial pagoda of Mi Luo Heaven, had no possibility of being born. The future would always be the future. No one would allow the birth of this primordial treasure. In short, if I can't get it, I won't let you get it either. As far as Feng Zichen knew, when Di Jun ruled the heaven realm, this pagoda was already in the process of being born. However, at that time it was not called the primordial pagoda of Mi Luo Heaven, but the 9-layered Great Heaven Pagoda. However, it was a pity that he had not been born until Emperor Jun had fallen. After that, the 9 heavens shattered, and the 9-layered Great Heaven Pagoda died before it was born. After the birth of the 33 heavens, its shattered origin followed the heavens and recondensed, giving birth to a new primordial treasure, the primordial pagoda of Mi Luo Heaven. However, even Haotian would not be able to see the birth of this primordial treasure, because, in order to take revenge on Haotian, after the god investiture, tribulation ended. The 3 pure ones moved the greater 1,000 worlds that they had opened in the chaos beyond the heavens, the grand pure land of Dachi Heaven, the jade pure land of Qingwei Heaven, and the pure land of Yu Heaven to the heaven realm to limit Haotian's power. As a result, the heaven realm changed again, from the 33 heavens to the 36 heavens. Chapter 5:55. Under this influence, the Meluo Heaven primordial pagoda changed again, from 33 levels to 36 levels. The addition of 3 levels would undoubtedly greatly extend the incubation time of this treasure. As time passed, the future would most likely be filled with endless variables. The future was full of uncertainty, and there were too many variables. Coupled with the deliberate calculations of those with ulterior motives, the Meluo Heaven primordial pagoda would probably never have the chance to be born. Dark Night Sky Canopy. The Dark Night demon god was not annoyed by the failure of his attack. With a flip of his hand, he struck out another great skill. Swish, Boundless Night attacked, and the world suddenly fell into darkness. The aura of the great Tao spread out, producing countless strange shadows that were hidden in the darkness, pouncing towards Feng Zichen and Haotian. Kill. Feng Zichen pulled the Zhoxing painting, and a terrifying power erupted, shaking the void. The galaxy rotated violently, and majestic god-fiend phantoms walked out, facing the strange figures that pounced over. On the other side, Hao Tian was not to be outdone. Change! The Tao seal in Hao Tian's hand changed, drawing all kinds of mysterious trajectories. The heavenly realm shook, and a vast power descended from the sky, transforming into the phantoms of 33 great emperors in front of Hao Tian. Rumble! At the same time, the projection of the Meiluo heaven primordial pagoda disintegrated, turning into the phantoms of 33 connate spirit treasures that fell into the hands of the 33 great emperors. These were the great emperors of the 33 heavens. They were the innate god-fiends that the 33 heavens' origins would give birth to in the future, corresponding to the 33 heavens. They were born heavenly lords. Just like how Zhoxing would give birth to innate star gods, the 33 heavens would also give birth to innate great emperors. However, just like the Meiluo heaven primordial pagoda, in the primordial world, no one liked their birth. Therefore, these 33 innate great emperors were most likely unable to be born. However, this did not prevent Hao Tian from borrowing their power from the future to fight against the enemy. Now, whether it was the Meiluo heaven primordial pagoda or the masters of the 33 heavens, they did not exist. But in the future, they were indeed real. However, due to various reasons, this real future was infinitely delayed. No one denied their existence, but they would always live in a future that was impossible to become a reality. With the two of them working together, their strength had completely suppressed the Dark Knight demon god. It was the same even if he was a chaos demon god. After all, apart from the indestructible true spirit, the Dark Knight demon god's body and primordial spirit were all taken from the Mahakala demon god. He was a true innate god. His chaos fiend god body, which had dominated the great chaos, had long been broken to the point where it couldn't be any more broken. It should be known that half of chaos demon god's strength came from his almost invincible body. Without the demon god's physical body, Dark Knight demon god, who only had the innate fiend god body, was unable to unleash the invincible battle strength that belonged to chaos demon gods of the same realm. At most, this made him stronger than cultivators of the same realm. However, the demonic god of darkness had to face a cultivator of the same realm as him, as well as a cultivator of a higher realm. Under such circumstances, he still wanted to win against the two of them. If the Dark Knight demon god really did it, then Feng Zichen and Hao Tian might as well find a place to slit their throats and hang themselves so as not to embarrass themselves. Rumble. Countless divine powers collided, erupting with unprecedented light, piercing through the night and also breaking the dark night sky, killing all the strange figures that pounced over. Not only that, after this force broke the Dark Knight demon god's divine power, it still didn't stop and rushed towards him. Not good. Puffed, the violent force surged over. Although the Dark Knight demon god used all his strength to resist, he was still no match. He was forcefully blasted into the depths of the void and vomited a mouthful of blood. He was injured. This was the first time the Dark Knight demon god was injured since the outbreak of the war. At the same time, this also meant that the Dark Knight demon god was not invincible. Facing Feng Zichen and Hao Tian, whose strength had skyrocketed, the Dark Knight demon god was no longer invincible and was faintly at a disadvantage. And the injury of the Dark Knight demon god had undoubtedly greatly increased the morale of Feng Zichen and Hao Tian. Then, the two of them looked at each other and joined forces to attack without hesitation, take advantage of his illness, and kill him. It wasn't easy to gain the upper hand, so of course they had to take advantage of the advantage and work hard to expand the results of the battle. Kill. Zhoxing diagram wrapped the endless starry sky and fiercely blasted into the depths of the void. The Meiluotian primordial pagoda was surrounded by the chi of creation, carrying the power of heaven and earth, and also suppressed into the depths of the void. With this attack, Feng Zichen and Haotian both tried to severely injure the Dark Knight demon god. At the same time, the void beside the Tree of World quietly cracked open a hole. A purple eye peeked out from it and stared indifferently at the Kidu demon god, who was at a loss. This was the Eye of Heavenly Tribulation. Feng Zichen's Thunderlock incarnation made a move. However, his target was not the Dark Knight demon god in the depths of the void, but the demon god Ji Du, who was holding the god-slaying spear and hiding at the side. From the appearance of the Dark Knight demon god to the fierce battle between him and Feng Zichen and Haotian, the demon god Ji Du was completely dumbfounded, because he couldn't interfere at all. Both sides were too strong, far beyond what he could contend against. In fact, as the battle became more and more intense, if not for the protection of the god-slaying spear, he wouldn't even have the right to get close to the battlefield. He was afraid that even the aftermath of the attack would be able to kill him. As his strength was too weak, the demon god Ji Du didn't dare to make any moves at all, in case he attracted the attention of the other party and got rid of himself. Therefore, he could only hug the god-slaying spear and carefully hide at the side, trying to reduce his presence as much as possible. However, as the battlefield shifted to the depths of the void, the demon god Ji Du felt that his opportunity had come. There was no one around. So wasn't it the best opportunity for him to attack the Tree of World? As long as he cut down the Tree of World, their goal would be achieved, and there would be no reason for this battle to continue. After all, they didn't come here to fight, but to cut down the Tree of World, so as to worsen the chaos in the primordial world, and also to take away a main material for refining a connate cardinal treasure. He did as he thought. The demon god Ji Du was just about to raise the god-slaying spear and attack the Tree of World. But suddenly he felt a chill all over his body. His intuition told him that an incomparably dangerous feeling came from all directions, enveloping him layer by layer, completely sealing off his escape route. Not good. Greatly alarmed, the demon god Ji Du hurriedly looked up, following the feeling in his heart. He saw in the void a purple eye shining with a dazzling brilliance. He shot a dazzling divine light at him. Light of tribulation. Lu eyes laid down the tribulation on behalf of the heavens, wielded the power of punishment in the primordial world, could be said to be the embodiment of the heavenly Tao. His will represented the will of the heavens. Therefore, the tribulation that he sent down was the tribulation sent down by the heavenly Tao. As the saying goes, once the heavenly punishment is sent out, all living beings will be destroyed. From this sentence, one could tell how powerful it was. And the light of tribulation was a manifestation of the heavenly punishment. Whoosh! Wherever the light of tribulation arrived, all living beings ceased to exist. Everything was destroyed, and the light of tribulation was extremely fast, as if it had surpassed time and space. A moment ago, it was still far away in the horizon, but the next moment it had arrived in front of the demon god Ji Du, and the demon god Ji Du? He didn't react at all. The speed of the light of calamity was too fast. It was beyond his ability to think. Before he could react, the light of calamity had arrived in front of him. Therefore, he could only watch as the light of tribulation swept towards him. However, the demon god Ji Du didn't have time to react, but the god-slaying spear in his hand was sensitive enough. Just as the light of tribulation was about to brush onto the demon god Ji Du, the god-slaying spear moved. Whoosh! The god-slaying spear broke free from the demon god Ji Du's hand, ignoring time and space, and stabbed straight at the light of tribulation, blocking it. At the critical moment, it saved Ji Du Clang. The light of tribulation was shattered by the god-slaying spear. But the demon god Ji Du didn't have it easy either. The huge recoil was transmitted to his body through the god-slaying spear, almost shattering his physical body that he had painstakingly trained for many years. With one blow, Ji Du was severely injured. because the Luai's incarnation at this moment was not at the half-step primordial chaos realm, but at the third level of the primordial chaos realm. After the four heavenly gods were blessed by heaven and earth, they could at least exert the power of the third level of the primordial chaos realm. And because the heavenly emperor had a higher status, under the blessing of heaven and earth, he could at least exert the power of the fourth level of the primordial chaos realm. Compared to the four heavenly gods, he was one level higher to show the difference in status. The huge difference in realm allowed the Luai's incarnation to have a crushing advantage when facing the demon god Ji-Du, if not for the protection of the god-slaying spear. This blow would have directly killed the demon god Ji-Du. It had to be said that the Khanate cardinal treasure was really a good thing. It was enough to bridge the gap between realms, allowing a half-step primordial chaos expert to contend with a true primordial chaos expert for a short period of time. Buzz, buzz, buzz. After the first blow failed, the Luai's incarnation launched another attack. The eye of heavenly tribulation throbbed violently, and the light on its body became even more dazzling. Endless Taoist rhymes spewed out, transforming into a phantom of the 9 heavens in the air. Rumble! The 9 heavens shook. From bottom to top, it began to collapse layer by layer, and with the collapse of every layer of the heavenly domain, a beam of tribulation light was produced and blasted toward the demon god Ji-Du. The 9 heavens of the thunder domain were 9 beams of tribulation light. This was the supreme divine power derived from the Khanate thunder Tao. 9 heavens tribulation light. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Beams of tribulation light fell, intending to beat the demon god Ji-Du into the dust. But the god-slaying spear lived up to its name of being number 1 in killing. Murderous intent surged around it, piercing, stabbing, sweeping, shattering the incoming beams of tribulation light. However, the gap was still too big. Even though the god-slaying spear tried its best to protect the demon god Ji-Du and block all the beams of tribulation light, the huge vibrating force still caused great damage to it. It was afraid that the demon god Ji-Du would not be able to withstand a few more attacks. With a Khanate cardinal treasure, it could only contend against primordial chaos Daluo Jinxian and not defeat him. Khanate cardinal treasures were not omnipotent. In the end, cultivators still relied on themselves. Bang! Seeing that the demon god Ji-Du's injuries were getting more and more serious, the god-slaying spear no longer hesitated and directly broke through the void, sweeping Ji-Du up and fleeing into the distance. Chase! Seeing this, the Thunderlock incarnation drove the eye of heavenly tribulation and hurriedly chased after it. Today, the demon god Ji-Du must die. It was not because Feng Zichin had a blood feud with the demon god Ji-Du, but because he saw a trace of the demon sect's deepest secret from the demon god Mahakala. Could it be that the original intention of the demon sect was to cultivate a suitable vessel for the chaos demon god to possess? The foundation of the demon sect was mainly body refinement, and the body refinement method of the demon sect was to imitate the body of the chaos demon god. If he was cultivating the Tao of the chaos demon god, the consequences were simply unimaginable. It would be fine if he had not attained great mastery. Once he attained great mastery, he would be the most suitable vessel for the chaos demon god and could be easily possessed by him. But this was not the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing was when one's cultivation reached an extremely high level, it would resonate with the great Tao that one cultivated. In this way, one could directly summon the chaos demon god from the imprint of the great Tao and be directly replaced by someone else from the root. Everything would become someone else's wedding dress. The most uncomfortable thing was that he was the one who took the initiative the entire time and was not forced. This was a typical example of cultivating to the end and refining oneself into someone else. How sad was that? Moreover, this method of resurrection was directly from the source and would not be affected by the chaos demon god's true spirit, which was still in a sealed state. In the past, no one would have thought that Mount Bujo would collapse. No one would have thought that the chaos demon god's true spirit would break out of the seal. Therefore, the demon ancestor Rahu racked his brains and came up with such a wonderful method to resurrect the chaos demon god. This method was indeed wonderful. If he had not seen the experience of the demon god Mahakala, Feng Zichen would not have thought of this. Speaking of which, who would have thought the demon sect that ran amok in the primordial world back then, it was actually the factory that the demon ancestor Rahu used to cultivate the demon god's container? After thinking through this, Feng Zichen had to admire the wisdom of the demon ancestor Rahu. This was the ancestor of scheming. He schemed against others. He also wanted others to be grateful, to thank him for imparting the Tao. In comparison, Feng Zichen's scheming methods were somewhat unpresentable. It could be seen that on the path of scheming, he still had room for improvement. At this moment, the chaos demon god's true spirit had already broken out of the seal for many years. It seemed that there was no need to replace the experts of the demon sect. But in fact, that was not the case. Who would complain about having too many incarnations? They did not make a move now because the strength of the experts of the demon sect was not enough. When their cultivation reached the level of primordial chaos Daluo Jinxian, the chaos demon gods would make a move. In this way, they would have multiple incarnations at the primordial chaos level. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And the cultivation of the demon god Jiddu was already infinitely close to that of primordial chaos Daluo Jinxian. As long as he cultivated in seclusion for dozens of Yuan Hui, he might be able to break through. If such a person was not eliminated now, the next time they met, he would be a real chaos demon god. The slaughtered demon god among the 3,000 demon gods. Jiddu cultivated the path of slaughter, which corresponded to the slaughter demon god. Therefore he had to die. This was called weakening the enemy's strength in advance. Speaking of which, demon god Jiddu was also a pitiful person. When he first started cultivating the path of demons, he might not have realized that this was a trap. Chapter 556. But by now, if he still could not discover the problem, then demon god Jiddu would have lived in vain all these years. However, by the time he realized that there was a problem with the demonic path, it was already too late and there was no turning back. At this time, even if demon god Jiddu stopped cultivating, the great Tao that he cultivated would involuntarily lean towards the Tao of darkness, slowly increasing his strength and transforming it into the most suitable vessel for the dark night demon god. The stronger he was, the deeper his understanding of the Tao of darkness, the closer demon god Jiddu would be to the dark night demon god and instinctively lean towards him to become a part of him. At this time, it was no longer demon god Jiddu controlling the great Tao, but the great Tao controlling Jiddu. He had become the puppet of the great Tao of darkness and would appear for the dark night demon god at any time. For people who cultivated the Tao of demon god, the lower their strength, the safer they would be. The stronger they were, the easier they would be affected by the chaos demon god and gradually become him. They did not even have the chance to resist, because after reaching the Daluo Jinxian, it was almost impossible to change the great Tao, let alone reach the Sage-to-Be realm. The demonic path experts were all bound by their own great Tao and became the puppet of the chaos demon god. They could not control themselves at all. Once they reached the primordial chaos Daluo Jinxian and fully matured, the corresponding chaos demon god would appear to reap them. Tragic. How tragic. Therefore, Feng Zichen attacked demon god Ji due to release him, lest his hundreds of millions of years of cultivation become a wedding dress for others. It was not because he coveted his treasures. Yes, it was all for their own good. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The void vibrated, and the phantoms of thousands of gods appeared, chanting the great Tao and performing all kinds of mysterious powers, freezing the void. Who is it? Demon god Jiddu, who was running for his life in the void, was suddenly frozen by this power and could not help but shout. Swish, a vast ancient painting appeared, and it was filled with the images of thousands of gods. It was extremely noble, and there was a strong aura around it, revealing a sacred and noble aura, showing the majesty of the divine Tao. This was the divine Tao treasure, the myriad god painting. Without a doubt, the North Star Emperor was here. After discovering the secret of the Devil's sect, Great Emperor Gaochen didn't have time to refine the Devil God flag. After handing it over to Fingdu, he hurriedly rushed over to help Leija kill Ji Du. Zichen greets demon god Kidu. The North Star's incarnation slowly walked out of the void and greeted Ji Du, great Taoist priests. Emperor Gaochen Tianhuang. Ji Du couldn't help but narrow his eyes when he heard Gaochen revealing his origin. He said with an ugly expression, a single Southern Extremity Longevity Emperor was able to beat him into a sorry state. If an even stronger Emperor Go Qin Tian Emperor were to appear, wouldn't he be doomed? Feeling horrified, Fiend Celestial Ji Du was about to cast a fiendish mystic technique and burn his core essence to deliver a fatal blow, hoping to fight for a chance of survival. But he was fast. The North Star clone was even faster. He was afraid that if he delayed any longer, he would attract the attention of Rahu. The North Star's clone also made his move after greeting the North Star's clone. Boom! The great Tao furnace fell with a loud bang. It carried the might of a chaos demon god and suppressed Fiend Celestial Ji Du. It should be known that the North Star's incarnation had the strength of a third-level primordial chaos expert under the support of the power of his level. Casting the great Tao furnace under such power was a completely different scene. There were 300 marks of chaos demon gods engraved on his body. The aura of the great Tao around him seemed to carry the divine might of the great Tao. Its power was close to that of an innate cardinal treasure. When the great Tao furnace fell, the roars of chaos demon gods could be faintly heard. They seemed to be venting the resentment of being killed, which made the great Tao furnace even more eerie. Bang! As if the heavens and earth were pressing down, the god-slaying spear that was guarding Fiend Celestial Ji Du's side smashed the great Tao furnace into pieces after the intense collision. However, the god-slaying spear was also sent flying by the huge recoil. Kill! Seizing the opportunity, Feng Zichen took out the Zichen sword and slashed at Fiend Celestial Ji Du Russell. On the other side, Luai's incarnation arrived in time. He activated the Eye of Tribulation and shot out beams of tribulation light at the god-slaying spear to prevent him from saving Fiend Celestial Ji Du without the protection of the god-slaying spear. How could a mere half-step primordial chaos demon god be a match for the third-level primordial chaos demon god Gaochen's incarnation? Not long after, Fiend Celestial Ji Du's physical body and primordial spirit were shattered by Zichen's sword. Only an innate, indestructible, true spirit was left floating in the void. Sigh. Fellow Taoist Ji Du, poor Wei is here to free you. Looking at Fiend Celestial Ji Du's true spirit, Feng Zichen sighed and said with slight melancholy. Then he took out the million sword illustration and swept up Fiend Celestial Ji Du's innate, indestructible, true spirit. He was about to shatter it to free him, but at this moment a sudden change occurred. Streaks of black airflow gushed out of Fiend Celestial Ji Du's true spirit, making him look extremely evil and noble. After sensing that Fiend Celestial Ji Du was in mortal danger, the corresponding chaos demon god descended, the massacre demon god of the 3,000 chaos demon gods. How dare you kill my vessel? You must be tired of living. A voice filled with murderous intent sounded from Fiend Celestial Ji Du's true spirit. It was like the sound of Tao, like the cry of Tao, the massacre demon god spoke. In an instant, the sky darkened. Endless murderous intent gushed out from the void and swept across the sky and earth, dyeing the place red. Cold. Bone-chilling cold. Gaochen and Luais, who had long ignored the cold, once again felt the bone-chilling coldness under the massacred demon god's murderous intent. Die. Without any hesitation, Gaoqin's incarnation activated the innate sword Dao and activated the million sword illustration with all his might. Suddenly, billions of sword lights burst out and shattered Fiend Celestial Ji, Du's true spirit. At the same time, Luai's did not want to be left behind. The Eye of Tribulation released a dazzling brilliance and swept out a heavenly punishment tribulation light, destroying Fiend Celestial Ji, Du's shattered true spirit. With that, Fiend Celestial Ji, Du completely ceased to exist. I have remembered your auras. I will never let you go. With the object of possession destroyed, the massacred demon god had lost his backing. His descending process was forcefully interrupted, and he only had time to utter a sentence before slowly disappearing. What a joke! Dilly-dallying to save someone. Do you really think I'm a fool? I'll give you enough time to descend. Gaoqin's incarnation shook his head in disdain as he looked in the direction where the massacre demon god disappeared. He had not even fully descended, and he already dared to utter such words. Did he really think that they were made of clay and could only watch as he descended? The result would naturally be to get rid of him before he fully descended. As for the threat of the massacre demon god, Feng Zichen did not take it to heart at all. As one of Panga's people, he had long formed an irreconcilable feud with the chaos demon god. Adding more hatred now would only be a small matter, so there was no need to take it to heart. Keep. He activated the million sword illustration and swept it at the place where Fiend Celestial Ji-Du died, collecting all the treasures he dropped after his death. Although they were treasures, there were not many of them left. In order to kill Fiend Celestial Ji-Du in the shortest time possible, Feng Zichen's 2 incarnations went all out in every attack. Just imagine, even Fiend Celestial Ji-Du was smashed into pieces. How many treasures could he leave behind, other than Fiend Celestial Ji-Du's natal treasure, the supreme grade innate spirit treasure Fiend Celestial Ji-Du spear? The rest of the treasures were all shattered. Even Fiend Celestial Ji-Du spear was severely damaged and needed a long time to recover to its peak. This god-slaying spear! After cleaning up the battlefield, Luai's incarnation and Gaoqin's incarnation set their eyes on the god-slaying spear. At this moment, due to Fiend Celestial Ji-Du's death, the god-slaying spear was quietly floating in the void. In other words, Feng Zichen only needed to reach out his hand to take this innate spirit treasure that was number 1 in terms of killing power. However, Feng Zichen did not dare to do so. Without a doubt, as long as his hand touched the god-slaying spear, what awaited him would be Fiend Celestial Raha's all-out attack. At that time, even if Feng Zichen did not die, he would be half-crippled. However, Feng Zichen could not bear to give up on the god-slaying spear just like that. Who did not want an innate spirit treasure? But soon, Feng Zichen did not need to be conflicted, because the god-slaying spear suddenly moved and stabbed straight at him. You killed our vice sect leader. You all deserve to die. Fiend Celestial Raha's cold voice suddenly came from the spear. At the same time, boundless killing intent erupted and swept towards the 2. Kill. Seeing this, Gaoqin and Luai's did not retreat. Instead, they advanced and used their supreme divine abilities to meet the god-slaying spear. If Fiend Celestial Rahu came personally, the 2 would not be a match for him even if they joined forces. However, it was only a divine consciousness that came. Even if he held the god-slaying spear, the 2 were not afraid at all. If the 2 joined forces and could not even defeat Fiend Celestial Raha's divine consciousness, it would be really embarrassing. While Gaoqin and Luai's were fighting the god-slaying spear, on the other side, in the depths of the void, an even more intense battle was coming to an end. Boom! After all, the Dark Knight demon god had just taken over the body and had not recovered to his peak state. He was no match for the combined power of Feng Zichen and Hao Tian. With a boom, His physical body was shattered by the two. Very well. I will remember the grudge of destroying my physical body. When I recover to my peak state, I will teach you all a lesson. After saying that, the Dark Knight demon god swept up his shattered physical body and fled into the distance. However, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian had finally gained an overwhelming advantage. How could they let him escape? Thief, don't you dare run. Zhouxing painting sealed the space-time, Meiluo Heaven's premier pagoda suppressed everything, and Feng Zichen even summoned the fragment of Mount Buzhou from the boundless starry sky, completely blocking the Dark Knight demon god's escape route. Bastard, you forced me to do this. Seeing that there was no hope of escaping, the Dark Knight demon god had to fight for his life. I offer my origin, reverse space-time, and summon the Tao fruit of my previous life. As he spoke, the Dark Knight demon god began to ignite his origin. All kinds of mysterious fluctuations were emitted from his body, crossing space-time, surpassing the Eldritch world, and transmitted to the chaos outside the realm. The next moment, the chaos outside the realm shook. Spots of light appeared from the void. They were endless and gathered into a majestic figure. It crossed space-time and rushed toward the Eldritch world. Oh no! Seeing this scene, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian's expressions changed immediately. A great fear surged from the depths of their hearts. They recognized this secret skill. This was a kind of reincarnation, secret skill. It could communicate with the long river of space-time and borrow power from the past and future that belonged to oneself. And, obviously, the purpose of the Dark Knight demon god using this skill. It was to borrow the Tao fruit of his previous life. Feng Zichen and Hao Tian did not know what realm the Dark Knight demon god had reached in his previous life, but one thing was certain. They were definitely no match for him. Even if they only summoned 1/10,000th of his power, it would still be the same. Kill! We must not let him succeed. With fear in their hearts, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian attacked together. They attacked the Dark Knight demon god with all their might, intending to kill him before the Tao fruit of his previous life descended. But unfortunately it was too late. Just as Feng Zichen and Hao Tian attacked, an extremely majestic figure suddenly descended and merged with the Dark Knight demon god. Boom! The Dark Knight demon god's aura instantly soared. In the blink of an eye, he reached the peak of primordial chaos, the 12th level of primordial chaos. In the end, he was too severely injured. Even if he used a secret skill, the Dark Knight demon god could not return to his peak state. But just the 12th level of primordial chaos was enough to deal with Feng Zichen and Hao Tian. This was a power that they could not resist. Rumble! A powerful aura bloomed from the Dark Knight demon god's body, sending Feng Zichen and Hao Tian flying. There was no need to attack at all. Just the aura alone was enough to suppress the two of them. Hiss! So powerful! Climbing up from the void, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian gasped. This power was too strong. It was as if they were facing a Tao ancestor. They could not resist at all. What do we do now? Hao Tian asked with a frown. Drag it out. Do everything we can to drag it out. His power will definitely not last long. We just need to drag it out until his power is exhausted. Then our chance will come. Gritting his teeth, Feng Zichen said, the power obtained through a secret skill was destined to not last long. There was no doubt about it. The only thing they could do now was to wait for the Dark Knight demon god's secret skill to end. At that time, the Dark Knight demon god would fall into a period of weakness. He would be at their mercy. However, how to drag it out became the biggest problem in front of the two of them. Although I have not recovered to my peak, it should be enough to kill you. So die. Although he was not satisfied with his current power, his hatred for Feng Zichen and Hao Tian made the Dark Knight demon god temporarily put this unhappiness to the back of his mind. He raised his huge palm and slapped towards the two of them. Danger! Alarm bells rang in their hearts. Feng Zichen and Hao Tian did not dare to take it head-on. They turned around and dodged. But at this moment, an indescribable light came from the void and directly hit the Dark Knight demon god's body. It was Penga's axe light. At the end of time and space, Penga was fighting with 3,000 chaos demon gods. Any existence that dared to interfere with the past would be met with his axe. The power that the Dark Knight demon god borrowed from the past could not be hidden from Pengu. Therefore, an axe light came from the past and slashed the Dark Knight demon god's body fiercely. Those who moved time recklessly, they would definitely be met with Penga's painful attack. Chapter 5:57. The sudden attack wiped out the Tao fruit that the Dark Knight demon god had borrowed from the past, causing his power to fall back to his previous realm in an instant. Furthermore, due to the backlash of the secret technique, the Dark Knight demon god's power was still weakening even after he recovered to his original realm. Very soon, he fell to the first level of primordial chaos. Ah, Pengu Yu! After suddenly losing his superior power, the Dark Knight demon god's mentality collapsed. He could not help but roar and curse Penga with hatred. But unfortunately, no matter how vicious his words were, the power he had lost could never be regained. Good chance. Feng Zichen and Hao Tian, who were already on the verge of despair under the attack of the Dark Knight demon god, could not help but feel relieved when they saw what was happening. How could the Dark Knight demon god, who was only at the first level of primordial chaos, be a match for the two of them? Kill. With a thought, the two of them took out their Dharma treasures and attacked the Dark Knight demon god. The closer it was to this moment, the more Feng Zichen and Hao Tian did not dare to get close to the Dark Knight demon god. They were really scared. Self-destruction was the specialty of the demon sect, especially the Dark Knight demonic god now. He could be said to be in a situation where there was no door to heaven and no road to hell. All his paths of survival were sealed. At this moment, it was the best time to self-destruct. At this moment, if they were too close to the Dark Knight demon god, they would inevitably be dragged to the grave with him. Self-destruction was a method of mutual destruction. They were about to win, so they couldn't afford to lose at the last moment. That would be a huge loss. With that thought in mind, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian did not forget to widen the distance between themselves and the Dark Knight demon god as they attacked. The two of them were not good people either. In the process of retreating, they intentionally or unintentionally fell back half a step to let the other party block in front. In this way, if the Dark Knight demon god really self-destructed, there would be someone blocking in front and their chances of escaping would be higher. Unfortunately, the two of them had the same idea, and naturally, no one was willing to fall behind. The two of them were helpless and could only advance and retreat together. Bang, bang, bang. On the other side, the Dark Knight demon god, whose strength had plummeted, was in imminent danger under the joint attacks of Feng Zichen and Hao Tian. His physical body was completely shattered and his life force was completely wiped out. There was no possibility of recovery. His primordial spirit had also been shattered several times, and it was getting harder and harder to condense it. It wouldn't be long before it was completely destroyed. Of course, these were not the things that made the Dark Knight demon god's heart ache the most. What made his heart ache the most was nightfall. Under the continuous attacks of the map of Zhouxing and the boundless heaven, primeval pagoda, the Chaos Spirit Treasure was severely damaged. It looked like it was about to fall from the Chaos Spirit Treasure grade. How could the Dark Knight demon god tolerate this? One had to know that the death of his incarnation was nothing. At most, he would lose a primordial chaos expert. But the knight was different. If this treasure was destroyed, would he be able to find a suitable spiritual treasure? There could be many incarnations, but Veil of Night only had one. Therefore, the Dark Knight demon god could tolerate the death of his incarnation, but he could not sit by and watch the night sky shatter. You forced me to do this. Let's die together, Scoundrel! Scoundrels! The Dark Knight demon god was about to use the demon sect's secret technique to self-destruct, so that he could drag the two of them to die together. But just as he was about to make a move, he saw that the two despicable people had already hidden far away. Even if he self-destructed at this moment, the two of them could easily dodge and would not be able to hurt him at all. Seeing this, the Dark Knight demon god's face darkened, and he could not help but curse the two of them. "Leave! None of you can leave!" With a loud roar, the Dark Knight demon god rushed towards the two of them without caring about anything else. He planned to rush to their side and self-destruct. But knowing his plan, how could Feng Zichen and Hao Tian give him a chance to get close to them? Mount Buzhou seal, suppress! Feng Zichen formed a seal with both hands, and the shadow of Mount Buzhou appeared, suppressing the past, present, and future, pressing down on the Dark Knight demon god. Treistrimsa heaven, suppress! Hao Tian was not to be outdone. With a slight thought, the shadow of Treistrimsa heaven appeared, supporting Mount Buzhou, and pressing down on the Dark Knight demon god. Rumble! Mount Buzhou held up Treistrimsa heaven, and half of the universe pressed down, directly fixing the Dark Knight demon god on the spot. Die! Seeing this, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian suddenly rushed forward, using their strongest attacks, and attacked the Dark Knight demon god together, intending to kill him. However, just as the two strongest divine powers were about to land on the Dark Knight demon god, the Dark Knight demon god looked at the two of them with hatred and suddenly burst into flames. He turned into a ray of Tao light, breaking free from the suppression of Mount Buzhou, and rushed into an unknown place. Without a doubt, the two of them's ultimate attack missed. "Wait for my return is the time of your death." A faint Tao voice came from the void and clearly fell into the ears of Feng Zichen and Hao Tian. That was the last voice of the Dark Knight demon god. He escaped. How did he do it? Hao Tian was very confused. He could not understand how the Dark Knight demon god escaped from the suppression, and then disappeared without a trace in front of the two of them. If the Dark Knight demon god was still at his peak, he might be able to do it. However, his strength had already fallen to the first level of primordial chaos, so how could he disappear under the eyes of the two of them? It's a sacrifice. The Dark Knight demon god sacrificed himself. After frowning and thinking for a while, Feng Zichen said slowly. He recognized the method of the Dark Knight demon god's escape. It was an extremely ancient sacrifice method, born in the chaotic era. Through the great Tao, he could offer everything he had to the great existence in the unseen world. Who could resist the power of the great Tao? The Dark Knight demon god had used this method to sacrifice himself to him. That's right, it was himself, or rather his true body. It was undeniable that even if the Dark Knight demon god's strength had fallen to the extreme, his true body was still incomparably great. There was nothing wrong with him sacrificing his incarnation to his great true body. Of course, it was not without a price to ask the great Tao to help. According to Feng Zichen's estimation, if half of the power he obtained from sacrificing his incarnation reached his true body, it would be considered merciful. Sacrifice? I see. When Hao Tian heard this, he understood the meaning behind it. The method of sacrifice could communicate with heaven and earth. It could be said to be wonderful, and almost every great magician had mastered one or two of them. Of course, Feng Zichen knew it too, and it was the highest level among them, the kind that could directly communicate with the heavenly Tao. The incense divine Tao itself was a kind of application of the laws of heaven and earth. It could be said to be the inheritance of the heavenly Tao. Not to mention, to confer a god, one needed to sacrifice to heaven and earth to obtain the recognition of heaven. Feng Zichen's method of sacrifice was comprehended from the myriad god painting, and it could be said to be passed down by the heavenly Tao. The power of sacrifice? Interesting. Perhaps I can deduce a divine ability based on this. The Dark Knight demon god's actions could be said to have reminded Feng Zichen. In the past, he did not pay much attention to the method of sacrifice, but now it seemed that there were still many things worth exploring about the method of sacrifice. For example, now, Feng Zichen suddenly thought of a novel he had read in his previous life. There was a supreme divine ability in it that was created based on the method of sacrifice. That supreme divine ability was called the blood altar. Perhaps it was because too much time had passed that Feng Zichen could not remember the name clearly. However, Feng Zichen still remembered its function clearly. That was to resurrect the dead. Using the blood of 10,000 spirits to build a blood-colored altar, placing the relics of the dead on it, and then activating the altar, one could summon the broken true spirit of the dead, allowing it to be reborn and walk in the world again. In the past, he did not think much of it, but now that he thought about it, this divine ability could be said to be heaven-defying. It was simply tailor-made for Daluo Jinxian. One had to know that the Daluo Jinxian in the primordial world was already immortal and indestructible. However, it was extremely difficult for him to return from his long slumber. He needed to wait for a long time. At the very least, Feng Zichen had only seen 2 Daluo Jinxian who had returned from their slumber since he came to the primordial world for so long. They were the Dark Nether Dragon Venerable and the Z clan. From this, it could be seen how difficult it was to resurrect Daluo Jinxian. However, with the blood altar, everything would be different. With the help of this divine ability, the speed of Daluo Jinxian's resurrection would undoubtedly be greatly increased. It could even be said that with the blood altar it was equivalent to having a second life. This supreme divine ability had to be created. Thinking of the benefits of the blood altar, Feng Zichen secretly made a decision. Although this supreme divine ability was just the imagination of an author in his previous life, and there was nothing magical about it. However, this was the primordial world where Daluo Jinxian walked everywhere. This place could be cultivated. And what was cultivation? It was to turn the impossible into the possible, subvert all known knowledge, and have the power to break the rules. It didn't matter if it wasn't magical. As long as he had the idea, Feng Zichen could completely deduce this supreme divine ability. In the eyes of mortals, the unrealistic fantasies of mortals were impossible to achieve, so they were called unrealistic. However, the gods and devils didn't think so. They had supreme power and could turn the unrealistic fantasies of mortals into reality. This was cultivation, making dreams come true. This was why the people of the world were painstakingly seeking the Tao. With strength, one could get whatever they wanted. Even if it didn't exist in the world, they could create it out of thin air. After putting away the thoughts in his heart, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian left the depths of the void. Although the blood altar was good, now was not the time to deduce it. There was still a big problem that had not been solved. That was demon ancestor Rahu. As the aura of the Dark Knight demon god disappeared, demon ancestor Rahu was completely enraged. He sacrificed his cultivation to condense a 5th-level primordial chaos incarnation and descended here. He held the god-slaying spear and fought with Gauchen Luais. As such, the two of them were no match for demon ancestor Rahu. In a few breaths, they were beaten back. If not for the two of them being mentally connected, they would not have been beaten back, but severely injured. Fortunately, demon ancestor Rahu didn't stay arrogant for long. Feng Zichen and Hao Tian arrived and joined forces with Gauchen Luais to fight against demon ancestor Rahu. 1 celestial darch, 3 deities, a total of 4 supremes of heaven and earth. With this power, it could be said that except for the Earth Empress, all the rulers of the primordial world in name had arrived. The demon ancestor's prestige was great. Good, good, good. It's really good. Looking at the 4 people in front of him, demon ancestor Rahu was so angry that he couldn't speak. 2 primordial chaos experts. They were gone just like that. They were killed by the 4 of them. It could be said that even when he was forced to self-destruct by Tao ancestor Hongjun back then, demon ancestor Rahu was not so angry. With the fall of Jidu and the dark night demon god, the demon sect could no longer be described as suffering a serious injury. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a broken family. Its strength had been weakened by at least half. Therefore, demon ancestor Rahu was so angry that he did not hesitate to sacrifice his cultivation to condense an incarnation. It was all to vent his anger here. If he did not kill them, how could the demon sect have the face to stay in the primordial world? It's just a small achievement. It's far from worthy of such praise. Feng Zichen smiled and said. As he spoke, he took a step forward and confronted demon ancestor Rahu. The other 3 also took a step forward and stood together with Feng Zichen. First kill our deputy sect master, then kill our acting sect master. Have you thought about how you want to die? Even though he was fighting 1 against 4, demon ancestor Rahu was still fearless and even threatened. Death, we have never thought about it. Demon ancestor, you should think about how to survive against the 4 of us. Shaking his head, Feng Zichen said, in his opinion, demon ancestor Rahu was simply courting death. If the 4 of them joined forces, even if demon ancestor Rahu himself came, it was still unknown who would win. An incarnation dared to speak arrogantly and did not take the 4 of them seriously. He was really courting death. It had to be admitted that demon ancestor Rahu's incarnation was indeed very strong. It had the cultivation of the 5th level of primordial chaos. No one present could compare to it except for Hao Tian. In addition, he held the Khanate cardinal treasure, the god-slaying spear. No one present was his match. Demon ancestor Rahu was indeed invincible. However, he did not understand one thing. When Feng Zichen and the other 3 joined forces, it was not as simple as 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. If the 4 mid-stage primordial chaos experts joined forces, demon ancestor Rahu might be able to win. However, when the 3 heavenly emperors and a celestial emperor joined forces, they could unleash the true celestial emperor's power. They even dared to fight against a 12th level primordial chaos expert. In this way, a mere 5th level primordial chaos demon ancestor's incarnation was nothing. It seems that after not fighting for so long, the primordial chaos can no longer remember my methods. It's time for you to feel the horror of demons again. After being provoked by Feng Zichen, demon ancestor Rahu, who was already angry, became even angrier. He raised the god-slaying spear in his hand and was about to end one of them to re-establish his prestige. However, before he could do anything, Feng Zichen and the other 3 attacked first. The boundless starry sky appeared behind Feng Zichen. The vast celestial court appeared behind Hao Tian. The shadows of gods appeared behind Gaochen. The divine firmament 9 heavens appeared behind Lei Zhe. The 4 phenomena met in the sky and gradually formed the complete primordial chaos celestial realm. Chapter 558. At the same time, under the summoning of the 4 supreme beings of heaven and earth, the projection of the wilderness began to slowly form. It appeared under the projection of the heaven realm and behind the 4 of them. At this moment, the entire wilderness, except for the underground netherworld, was projected here. It hung high in the void, emitting a heart-palpitating fluctuation. Fiend ancestor, please be on your way. Under the projection of heaven and earth, the 4 of them bowed respectfully to fiend ancestor Rahu. Then, an indescribable god's projection quietly appeared between heaven and earth. This was the Celestial Dharch, the real Celestial Dharch, the supreme ruler of the wilderness, controlling everything in the wilderness, billions of space-time, all fates and all sentient and heartless beings. He could mobilize all the power of the wilderness. Therefore, his strength was comparable to the heavenly Tao. He could be said to be invincible in the wilderness. Of course, because of the lack of the Earth Empress, the celestial Darch summoned by Feng Zichen and the others was not the complete version. His strength was not at the level of invincibility in the wilderness, but even so, he could not be underestimated. With the support of many authorities, this celestial Darch projection could at least unleash the power of primordial chaos stage 10. Kill. Killing intent surged in the four of them as they roared at Fiend Ancestor Rahu. Then the celestial Darch projection moved in response and glanced at Fiend Ancestor Rahu. Rumble. With just a casual glance, the Tao of heaven and earth actually shook and deduced all kinds of mysterious laws. They turned into a vast torrent of great Tao that surged toward Fiend Ancestor Rahu. Oh no! After seeing the celestial Darch projection appear, Fiend Ancestor Rahu knew that things were not good. He wanted to escape, but he was locked down by an invisible force. The surrounding space-time also solidified, so he could not escape and could only resist this divine ability. Explode! Without time to think, Fiend Ancestor Rahu rushed toward the four of them, ready to use his strongest technique, self-destruction. But unfortunately, the celestial Darch projection was too powerful. Before Fiend Ancestor Rahu's figure could reach the four of them, he was drowned by the torrent of great Tao and gradually dissipated. When the torrent of great Tao dissipated, Fiend Ancestor Rahu's figure had already disappeared. Only a blood-colored spear was left lying there quietly. Fiend Ancestor Rahu's avatar was dead, killed by a single glance from Celestial Thearka's projection. No one doubted that Fiend Ancestor Rahu was weak. That could only mean that the Celestial Darch Phantom was very strong, unimaginably strong. A single glance was enough to destroy the incarnation of Fiend Ancestor Rahu, who had a 5th level primordial chaos cultivation base. What terrifying power was this? And this was only a phantom image of the real Heavenly Emperor. If the real Celestial Emperor were to descend, how powerful would he be? Even if Tao Ancestor Hongjun personally came, he would still be far from being his match. For a time, the two people present had an unprecedented desire for the true position of Heavenly Emperor. If he could become a real Celestial Emperor, no one in the untainted land would be able to escape from him. Feng Zichen and Hao Qian looked at each other at the same time. They looked at each other in silence. From each other's eyes, the two of them understood each other's thoughts. He wanted to unify the primordial world and truly dominate the primordial world. He wanted to become the master of the primordial world. However, the thoughts Feng Zichen and Hao Qian saw from each other's eyes were only at a gradual level. They could not see the deepest level of thoughts. For example, Hao Qian thought that he was the common ruler of the untainted land, and Great Emperor Zui was the sub-ruler of the untainted land. He was destined to become the next celestial emperor after him. In that case, the two of them could work together, as long as he could get the full help of Great Emperor Zui. Hao Qian believed that it might not be long before he could take back the authority that belonged to Celestial Emperor. In this way, with the support of heaven and earth, he would soon achieve the Tao and transcend heaven and earth. Then he could step down from the position of Celestial Emperor and pass it to Great Emperor Zui to help him achieve the Tao. Great Emperor Zui would help him gather power. After he stepped down, he would pass on the complete position of Celestial Emperor to Great Emperor Zui. He would not need to spend so much effort to scheme against everyone after he ascended the throne. Therefore, Great Emperor Zui helping him was not entirely for him, but also to help himself. This plan could be said to be the best of both worlds. Hao Qian felt that this plan was completely feasible. After that, he might be able to persuade Great Emperor Zui to work together for a great cause. Hao Qian thought very beautifully. The plan could also be said to be excellent. But obviously, Feng Zichen did not think so. Now he already occupied 3 of the positions of the 4 Imperials. Even the last one was in cahoots with him. It could be said that as long as he was willing, he could take over Haotian at any time. In fact, the current Feng Zichen only needed to wait for Haotian to make a big mistake. Then he could use this as an excuse to change the dynasty. In this way, how could Feng Zichen, who controlled more than half of the power of the heavenly court, be willing to wait for Haotian to abdicate? Besides, even if Feng Zichen was willing, it would take at least tens of millions of years or even billions of years for Haotian to abdicate. He definitely did not have the patience to wait for such a long time. If Haotian really colluded with Great Emperor Ziwei to deal with the other 3 Great Emperors, the consequences were simply unimaginable. He would definitely be tricked to death by Feng Zichen. Hee. Each of them had their own plans. They laughed dryly and turned to look at the god-slaying spear at the same time. The demon ancestor Rahu had died too quickly, so he did not have time to send the god-slaying spear away. This caused the treasure to be left here. How should we deal with this god-slaying spear? Looking at the god-slaying spear, Feng Zichen said with a headache, if Rahu, the demon ancestor, had really fallen, he would have taken away this primordial cardinal treasure without saying a word. But the problem was that the demon ancestor Rahu was not dead yet. If anyone dared to take the god-slaying spear, not only would they not be able to refine it, but they might also be poked with a hole one day and be quietly killed by the demon ancestor. However, it was absolutely impossible to just leave it here and not care about it. How could he throw away something that was already in his hands? Not to mention, it was a connate cardinal treasure, like the god-slaying spear. Even if they could not use it and left it in the warehouse to collect dust, they could not leave it to the demon sect to avoid increasing their strength. Fellow Taoist Ziwei, why don't you bring it back to Ziwei Star and suppress it with a boundless starry sky? After a while, Haotian said, Haha, fellow Taoist Haotian, you really know how to joke. If you want to suppress it, you should bring it back to the Daluo sky and suppress it with the origin of the heaven realm. My boundless starry sky can't suppress a weapon like the god-slaying spear. Hearing this, Feng Zichen sneered a few times and said coldly, Haotian's words were really a little foolish. If the boundless starry sky was in its peak state, not to mention the god-slaying spear, even the demon ancestor Rahu could be suppressed. But the boundless starry sky was still in a damaged state and could not withstand the torment. If the god-slaying spear was suppressed there, it would be equivalent to burying a time bomb. Once the demon ancestor Rahu came to cause trouble, the consequences would be unimaginable. You must be joking, you must be joking. Haotian laughed a few times and did not reply. The boundless starry sky was not in a good state, and the heaven realm was not in a good state either. The 33 heavens had just been established and had not yet been completely stabilized, so it could not withstand the torment of the demon ancestor Rahu. But, fellow Taoist, your words have reminded me. Suddenly, Feng Zichen's heart skipped a beat. He thought of a wonderful place and said to Haotian, Fellow Taoist Haotian, do you still remember the location of the Purple Cloud Palace? Was there a more suitable place in the primordial world than the Purple Cloud Palace to suppress the god-slaying spear? Feng Zichen did not believe that the demon ancestor Rahu would dare to go to the Purple Cloud Palace to snatch the god-slaying spear. Moreover, Tao ancestor Hong Jun and the demon ancestor Rahu could be said to be old enemies, the kind that would not rest until one of them was dead. If the god-slaying spear fell into his hands, the demon ancestor Rahu would definitely not be able to snatch it back. I remember, but why did fellow Taoist Ziwei suddenly ask about this? Could it be Haotian was not a fool? After thinking for a while, he understood Feng Zichen's plan. Brilliant! Fellow Taoist Ziwei's method is really brilliant. However, in this way, the demon ancestor Rahu will probably hate the 4 of us to death. After shaking his head and sighing, Hao Qian began to mark the location of the Purple Cloud Palace in front of Feng Zichen. After what had just happened, the demon ancestor Rahu would not let them off even if this matter did not happen. Then, why should they show mercy to the demon ancestor? Moreover, if they suppressed the god-slaying spear now, the demon ancestor Raha's strength would weaken a little. When the demon ancestor came to take revenge in the future, their chances of survival would be correspondingly higher. Everyone, let's do it! Then the four of them, with Hao Qian as the leader and Feng Zichen as the support, jointly raised the god-slaying spear and blasted it toward the Purple Cloud Palace. Rumble! The god-slaying spear pierced the void and opened a passage that led directly to the primordial chaos beyond the heavens, heading straight for the Purple Cloud Palace. In the depths of the primordial chaos beyond the heavens, no matter how turbulent the primordial chaos was, a purple palace that emitted a mysterious Taoist rhyme still stood there quietly, as if it had been there since ancient times. But today, this tranquility was broken. A blood-red spear broke through the void at an unimaginable speed, fiercely slamming open the door and rushing into the palace, destroying countless artifacts. Nonsense! At the gate of witchcraft, Ancestor Hongjun, who was confronting the chaos demon god, sensed the movement in the Purple Cloud Palace and could not help but smile. Then he laughed and scolded, waving the horsetail whisk in his hand. The next moment, the Purple Cloud Palace in the distance immediately sensed it. As if time had flowed backward, everything returned to its original state. The only difference was that in the depths of the Purple Cloud Palace, there was an additional blood-red spear, firmly suppressed there. The Purple Cloud Palace itself was a powerful magic treasure. At the very least, it was not inferior to a primordial absolute treasure. With the support of the Way of Heaven, its power had reached an unimaginable level. Therefore, even if Ancestor Hongjun was not here now, suppressing the god-slaying spear was easy. My friends hiding in the dark, even the demon ancestor has been defeated. Why are you still not retreating? After sending the god-slaying spear to the Purple Cloud Palace, Feng Zichen and the others did not leave. Instead, they shouted into the void. The demon sect was not the only people who had designs on the Tree of World. It was just that the demon sect had taken the lead because of their powerful strength. There were also many supreme experts who had lived from the Archean Age to the present day in the dark, as well as some of the 3,000 guests of the Purple Cloud Palace with evil intentions. The untainted land was too big, so no one knew how many experts were hidden in the untainted land. The temptation of a primordial treasure was too great, enough to make these people hiding in the dark take the risk. Feng Zichen and Hao Qian were lying in ambush here, not only to guard against the demon sect, but also to guard against those experts whose attitudes were unknown. After waiting for a long time, no one answered, but the aura hidden in the dark had decreased by a lot. It seemed that the failure of the demon sect had deterred many people, and some of them had retreated. However, they could not let their guard down. There were still some people who had not left in the dark, waiting for the opportunity to attack. Alas, this is troublesome. Although they were angry, Feng Zichen and the other three had no choice. They could only work together to set up a peerless killing array around the Tree of World to guard against someone secretly attacking. After the killing array was set up, Hao Qian, Lei Zhe, and Gao Chen left, leaving Feng Zichen alone to guard the Tree of World. There was no choice. The Tree of World was very important, but it did not need 4 people to guard it. Feng Zichen alone was enough. The most important thing now was to quickly wipe out the chaos of the ferocious beasts and return peace to the untainted land. Darkness, despair, filth, this was the deepest part of the northern underworld, and also the filthiest place in the untainted land. It was also the home of all things in the world, the graveyard of the world. Without a doubt, this was the ultimate, the most mysterious and dangerous place in the untainted land. Boundless chi of eradication floated in the deepest part of the ultimate, waiting for the day to erupt and destroy everything. However, the principle of the world could not escape the principle of things going in the opposite direction when they reached an extreme. It was the same even for the dangerous ultimate. At the deepest part of the ultimate, the place that should be filled with the most despairing chi of destruction, the reality was completely different. Pure white lotus flowers were like a white sea, rooted at the bottom of the ultimate. They fed on the filthy chi of eradication and grew healthily, purifying everything in this place and bringing a trace of vitality to the ultimate that was filled with destruction. And in this sea of white flowers, there was a huge lotus flower that was especially strange. It was born black and white. Half of it was black, representing pure destruction, while the other half represented the ultimate creation. This lotus flower coexisted with destruction and creation. It was contradictory and strange, but it also inexplicably conformed to a certain great Tao trajectory. On the petals, there were two huge eggs covered in mysterious Tao patterns. One was black and one was white, and they were extremely mysterious. That's right, the black egg nurtured Feng Zichen's ultimate incarnation, the ultimate divine son, who wielded the Tao of eradication. And the white egg nurtured the ultimate goddess, a Khanate god fiend that was born by the ultimate origins. She wielded the Tao of creation. Originally, these two Khanate god fiends that were born in the ultimate needed millions of years of gestation before they could truly be born. But with the rise of the fiendish Tao, the murderous aura in the world rose, resulting in endless killing in the primordial world, producing large amounts of filthy chi. And most of this filthy chi flowed into the ultimate to strengthen its ultimate origins. Under this influence, the birth of the two children of the ultimate undoubtedly sped up greatly. A day's work was equivalent to 100 years of work. Therefore, in just a few hundred years, the two children of the ultimate welcomed their birth. Buzz, 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 an inexplicable Tao rune spread from the void and quickly spread throughout the entire ultimate. Chapter 559. Whoosh! The void cracked open silently as wisps of chaotic liquid seeped out of the void and dripped onto the two huge eggs. This was the origins of the sinkhole. As the situation in the primordial world became more chaotic, the origins of the sinkhole became richer. They could afford to be extravagant and use the origins to accelerate the growth of the two divine sons of the sinkhole. Speaking of which, there was nothing they could do about it. In terms of status, the Khanate god fiends born from the sinkhole wielded destruction and creation. They were already considered top-notch existences in the primordial world. They were not weaker than those mighty figures, but unfortunately they were born too late, so they missed too many opportunities. Even now, the environment of the world had changed. It would be more and more difficult to attain Tao in the future. It was already so difficult to get started. If the sinkholes did not give these two divine sons of the sinkhole a cheat, it would probably be very difficult for them to attain Tao, let alone catch up to those mighty figures. After all, the era of Khanate had passed. For this, the sinkholes had no choice but to use the origins to irrigate the two divine sons of the sinkhole, hoping that they would be born with Daluo Jinxian or even a higher realm. Otherwise, according to the normal transformation standards of Khanate god fiends, they would at most have the cultivation level of Tai Jinxian. These two divine sons of the sinkhole would probably have to hide in the sinkhole for the rest of their lives. The sinkhole was the ultimate home of the world. It was also an ominous place. The Khanate god fiends born here were naturally on the opposite side of all living beings. It would be fine if their cultivation level was high. But if their cultivation level was low, those mighty figures would not mind bullying the weak and eliminating the threat in advance. Therefore, the moment the divine sons of the sinkhole were born, they had to be mentally prepared to be enemies with all living beings. If they were weak, they would really die. More and more origins of the sinkhole surged out of the void and were absorbed by the mighty living beings born in the two huge eggs. But gradually, Feng Zichen's sinkhole incarnation realized that something was amiss. The sinkholes was quite interesting. The sinkhole's origins that flowed out was divided into two parts, one large and one small. The larger part, about 60%, flowed to the goddess of the sinkhole. As for Feng Zichen's incarnation, he only obtained 40% of the sinkhole's origins, 20% less than the goddess of the sinkhole. What did it mean to be biased? This was it. The will of the bottomless abyss could not be blamed for being biased, because to him, the goddess of the bottomless abyss was his biological daughter. As for Feng Zichen's incarnation, that was just an outsider. It was probably because he had given the bottomless chasm the ability to give birth to life that the will of the bottomless chasm had no choice but to pinch its nose and acknowledge his identity. Based on this point, it was inevitable that the will of the sinkhole would be biased. Even if the will of the bottomless abyss had no intelligence, its instincts still made it closer to the bottomless abyss goddess, who had a deeper bond with it. Furthermore, the world-cleansing white lotus at the bottom of the sinkhole belonged to Feng Zichen. When they purified the ultimate, all the power they produced gathered on his body. This also caused the origin source of the sinkhole divine sun to be stronger than the sinkhole goddess origin source. Under the circumstances, if the sinkhole intent did not give the sinkhole goddess some benefits, then the ownership of the sinkhole would completely belong to someone else. Shwa! In the depths of the sinkhole, a rainbow light suddenly appeared and brushed over the two huge eggs. When the light disappeared, the two huge eggs were nowhere to be seen. In their place was a handsome man in black and a beautiful woman in white. They were the sinkhole divine sun and the sinkhole goddess. The Khanate god fiends born from the sinkhole were born. Buzz, 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 following the birth of the two, the huge black and white 12th lotus platform under their feet suddenly trembled violently. Then it split into two and transformed into two Khanate lotus flowers. One was pure black, while the other was pure white. Both flowers bloomed at the 12th grade and were supreme grade Khanate numinous treasures. However, although they were supreme grade Khanate spirit treasures, they were the lowest of supreme grade Khanate spirit treasures. They only had 37 Khanate divine seals. However, when the two were combined, they could transform into the most top-grade Khanate spirit treasure, the sinkhole divine lotus, with 45 Khanate divine seals. In addition, these three Khanate lotus flowers were called the sinkhole divine lotus. Yuan Yu greets elder brother. After putting away the Khanate lotus platform, the sinkhole goddess Yuan Yu bowed to Feng Zichen. Sister, there's no need to be so polite. Feng Zichen hurriedly went forward and helped Yuan Yu up. There was indeed no need to be polite. Although the two of them were born, it was not the first day they knew each other. The process of the Khanate god fiend's birth was that they first had intelligence before they were born. Therefore, the two of them had known each other since they were in the egg. Yuan Yu was the name of the sinkhole goddess. Yuan, which meant beginning, had the meaning of creation, and corresponded to the Tao of the sinkhole goddess. You referred to beautiful jade. The sinkhole was the most filthy, but the sinkhole goddess born here was the purest. Here, she was referred to as beautiful jade. Therefore, the sinkhole goddess was named Yuan Yu. On the other hand, the name of the sinkhole divine sun, Feng Zichen, was much simpler. Sinkhole. Because he controlled the Tao of destruction and termination, he was named Sinkhole. Swoosh, swoosh. Two air-piercing sounds were heard. The sinkhole and Yuan Yu looked up and saw two divine lights, one black and one white, flying over and landing in front of them. This is, with a guess in mind, the two of them raised their hands to grab the divine lights in front of them. Pop! The divine lights shattered, revealing the items inside. Connate spirit treasure. In front of the sinkhole was a pitch-black longbow and a black arrow. World Destroyer bow and final arrow. These two Dharma treasures were superior grade connate spirit treasures separately, but together they were supreme grade connate spirit treasures. Destruction and final arrow could be said to be fatal. Its power was extremely powerful. In front of Yuanyu was a white mirror. The creation aura around her surged endlessly. It was abnormally extraordinary. That was the truth. This was a precious treasure of the Tao of creation, the supreme grade connate spirit treasure, the mirror of creation. It could create all things and also end one's life force. It could be said to have endless magical uses. It also had the effect of restraining the World Destroyer bow and final arrow. These two supreme grade connate spirit treasures were the lifelong spirit treasures that the sinkhole had prepared for the two of them. This sinkhole is really interesting. Looking at the mirror of creation that was obviously stronger than the World Destroyer bow and final arrow, Feng Zichen secretly shook his head. The sinkholes was afraid that the sinkhole goddess would be bullied by him, so it gave all the good things to the sinkhole goddess. Unfortunately, even so, the sinkhole goddess's strength was far inferior to his. For example, when the two of them were just born, the sinkhole goddess already had Daluo Jinqian's perfected cultivation. In the current primordial world, she was not considered weak. However, the sinkhole goddess had the cultivation of an early-stage quasi-saint, a realm higher than the sinkhole goddess. No matter what, the sinkhole goddess's true body, Feng Zichen, was also at the half-step primordial chaos realm. His incarnation carried the origin of the sinkhole, so it was not difficult for him to reach the early-stage quasi-saint realm. If not for the sinkhole goddess's favoritism, his strength might be even stronger. Just as the two of them were chatting, a shocking phenomenon occurred in the primordial world because of the birth of the two of them. The entire primordial world suddenly darkened, and the world fell into darkness. Then, wisps of final chi surged out of the void, forming all kinds of doomsday scenes in all parts of the world. It shocked everyone until their faces turned pale. Just like that, the phenomenon lasted for 3 days before it ended. However, the expressions of all living beings did not relax because of this. Instead, they became even more solemn. This was because in the hearts of all living beings, there was a voice in the unseen world that kept telling them, a god who inherited the will of destruction was born. One day, he would bring an end to the primordial world. No one would be happy to hear that a great demon who destroyed the world was born. All living beings were unhappy, but there was one place that was even more unhappy than them. That was the demon sect. If one were to talk about who the birth of the sinkhole goddess had the greatest impact on, it would undoubtedly be the demon sect. The sinkhole goddess was the natural master of the demon path. He was the successor chosen by the heavenly Tao for the demon ancestor. Whether it was the mortal path, the demon path, or any other Tao, they were all controlled by the heavenly Tao. A Tao that was not controlled by the heavenly Tao could not exist in the primordial world. Therefore, the heavenly Tao had the right to choose the next sect master for the demon sect. In the end, it was too disappointed in the demon ancestor Rahu that the heavenly Tao decided to give up and choose a new sect master. This candidate was the sinkhole goddess. The cultivation of the demon sect was mainly based on negative aura. As for the sinkhole goddess, it gathered all the negative aura of the primordial world. Demons were extremely destructive, and the destiny of the sinkhole goddess was the owner of the myriad worlds. Without a doubt, the sinkhole goddess was born for the demon sect. If he did not become the sect master of the demon sect, who would? Therefore, when the fluctuations of the sinkhole goddess birth spread to the demon sect, the destiny of the demon sect moved in response. It shifted from the upper echelons of the demon sect and gathered on the sinkhole goddess in the northern underworld. This frightened the upper echelons of the demon sect. Under the suppression of the celestial sect of wonders, the destiny of the demon sect was not much. Now that more than half of it was gone, it was not an exaggeration to say that it was going to break the roots of the demon sect. Everyone was shocked and investigated where the destiny of the demon sect had flowed to. Although they did not calculate the sinkhole goddess, they roughly calculated that the heavenly Tao had chosen a new sect master. Next, it was much simpler. They would think of all ways to find the new sect master and bring him back. They would treat him as the sect master of the demon sect and integrate the power of the demon path to fight against the celestial sect of wonders together. This, of course, it was impossible. Everyone was an old demon. How could they serve a stranger as their master? Of course, they would think of all ways to find the person and kill him directly. As soon as they thought of this, these old demons had the intention to kill at the same time. The sect master who had suddenly appeared could not be left alive. As the stronghold of the chaos fiend god in the primordial world, the demon sect did not even care about the heavenly Tao. Why would they care about the sect master he had chosen? Wasn't this a joke? Was the fiend ancestor unable to lift his spear, or were they tired of living? There could only be one voice in the demon sect, and that was the fiend ancestor, Rahu. Any existence that dared to shake his position had to die. Putting aside how the experts of the demon sect planned to deal with the sinkhole, when the sinkhole goddess was talking to Yuanyu, she suddenly felt her destiny skyrocketing. She could not help but feel puzzled. He had just been born and had not done anything. How could he have the destiny? With doubts in his heart, the sinkhole goddess pinched her fingers and calculated. I see. After figuring out the origin of the destiny, the sinkhole goddess could not help but feel a headache. She really did not expect that the sinkhole goddess and the demon sect would have such a relationship. However, unifying the demon sect and integrating the fiend path was her destiny as the master of the sinkhole goddess. She had to do it. This was a pain in the ass. How could the demon sect be so easy to deal with? Not to mention the countless experts. All of them were involved with the chaos fiend god. If they were not careful, they would be killed by the chaos fiend god. In addition, there was the fiend ancestor whose strength was unfathomable. It was unwise to be enemies with him. Wait, chaos fiend god. Perhaps the demon sect was not that difficult to deal with. Suddenly, the sinkhole goddess's heart stirred and she thought of a way. Because of the chaos fiend god, the demon sect was a huge pit. Once its disciples entered the realm of Daluo Jinxian, their lives would fall into the hands of others. And this was the opportunity for the sinkhole goddess. As long as this news was spread, whether the demon sect could accept a successor was another matter. In any case, all the great divine abilities of the primordial world would not let the demon sect off. If this news was spread, the demon sect would evolve from the enemy of the celestial sect of wonders to the public enemy of the primordial world. They would probably have no place to stand. Those experts of the demon sect would also be hunted down by the great divine abilities of the primordial world to prevent the descent of the chaos fiend god. When the forces of the demon sect were almost wiped out by everyone, the sinkhole goddess could appear and integrate the remaining forces of the demon sect, redefine the demonic path, and replace Rahu as the new demon ancestor. Moreover, during this process, the sinkhole goddess could also deduce new demonic path cultivation methods to get rid of the predicament of the demon sect being affected by the chaos fiend god. In addition, if she could deduce a way for the demon sect cultivators to get rid of the path of the chaos fiend god, it would be much easier to integrate the demon sect. Did they really think that the current upper echelons of the demon sect were of the same mind as the demon ancestor Rahu? No, they were not of the same mind at all. In fact, in the hearts of these upper echelons of the demon sect, they wished that they could use all the torture in the world on the demon ancestor Rahu to dispel the hatred in their hearts. If they had not been bewitched by the demon ancestor Rahu, how could they have cultivated the path of the demon god and ended up as puppets? They had been completely tricked by the demon ancestor Rahu. If someone could help them get rid of the influence of the path of the demon god, then there was no doubt that there was no need for the sinkhole goddess to make a move. These higher-ups of the demon sect would think of ways to kill the demon ancestor Rahu. Moreover, the sinkhole goddess had taught everyone the Tao. Naturally, she could become the master of the demon sect. This method was very wonderful. It could completely seize the authority of the demon sect without bloodshed. But it was more difficult. How difficult was it to change the great Tao? It was even more difficult to hide from the perception of the chaos fiend god. However, Feng Zichen had experience in this. A part of his path of stars came from the great Tao of stars of the star fiend god. However, he used the path of stars to define space-time, act out Hongming, transform reincarnation, and give birth to all gods. He had completely transcended the scope of the path of stars and walked out of his own Tao. Therefore, he was not affected by anyone. This was a complete train of thought. Redefining the great Tao might allow the experts of the demon sect to get rid of the shadow of the chaos fiend god and walk out of their great Tao. Yes, this method could be given a try. If it failed, it would at most waste some time. If it succeeded, it would be a huge gain. Chapter 560. With a thought. The ruins of the end had already made a decision. He then sent a message to the inner demon and handed this matter to him. The inner demon was named after the heart. From this point, it could be seen that he was an expert at manipulating people's hearts. Spreading news and sowing discord was the most suitable thing for the inner demon to do. Besides, if he wanted to find the flaws of the demonic path, at the very least, he had to have some understanding of the current demonic path cultivation methods in order to find a way to improve them. The inner demon went out this time not only to spread news, but also to collect some demonic path cultivation methods for the ruins of the end to study. And this kind of thing. The ruins of the end definitely could not appear. Otherwise, once those demonic path experts discovered the traces of the ruins of the end, what awaited him would be endless pursuit. Therefore, the most important thing for the ruins of the end now was to keep a low profile. He stayed in the ruins of the end and did not come out to reduce his presence. Only when his cultivation reached the perfected sage-to-be realm and barely stood at the peak of the primordial world could he walk in the primordial world. Then he did not have to worry about the pursuit of the demonic path experts. Since it was not convenient for the ruins of the end to appear, he could only let the idle inner demon do it. "Brother, did you encounter any difficulties?" Seeing the ruins of the end suddenly frown, Yuan Yu asked curiously. "Nothing. It's just that I suddenly remembered that there are many connate ferocious beasts causing trouble in the ruins of the end. There are also the remains of the chaos fiend gods hidden in it. I feel that it's a little troublesome." Shaking his head, the ruins of the end said worriedly. Telling Yuan Yu about the demonic path would not be of any use other than adding to her worries. Therefore, the ruins of the end did not intend to tell him. Fortunately, the ruins of the end was not calm at the moment, which gave him a suitable excuse. Just as he said, the chaos of the connate ferocious beasts and the calamity of the chaos fiend gods affected the entire primordial world. Even the ruins of the end was no exception. One had to know that the environment of the ruins of the end was the most suitable for connate ferocious beasts to survive. Therefore, many connate ferocious beasts had gathered in the ruins of the end and were causing trouble everywhere. Moreover, there were many remains of the chaos fiend gods at the bottom of the ruins of the end. These were the targets of the chaos fiend gods. Devouring the remains that still existed could allow the chaos fiend gods to quickly recover their strength, so they would never let them go. Fortunately, there was a door in the sinkhole that connected the great wilderness and the outer realm chaos. It was one of the most important areas in the Great Wilderness. For this reason, Pangu had specially left behind a temple here to suppress the sinkhole. If the chaos demonic god wanted to retrieve the remains, he had to enter the sinkhole. But because they were not sure if Pangu had left a backup plan, they did not dare to barge into the ultimate directly. After struggling for a long while, the chaos demon gods came up with a solution. They gathered a large number of connate ferocious beasts and drove them into the ultimate. On the one hand, to retrieve the remains for them. On the other hand, they could also test out Panga's backup plan. In order to find the remains of the Chaos Fiend Celestial, these connate ferocious beasts had caused a lot of trouble in the sinkhole. The reason why the sinkhole and Yuan Yu could be born so quickly was also because of this matter. The sinkholes will needed them to suppress these connate ferocious beasts to return peace to the sinkhole. Those Xiantian ferocious beasts are truly abominable. It wasn't easy for the bottomless chasm to give birth to some vitality, and they almost destroyed it all. At the mention of the Xiantian ferocious beasts, Yuan Yu's face was also filled with anger. They were too destructive, and there was no room for any living creatures in front of them. With such a character, they were born to be at odds with fate. How could Yuan Yu like them? That's right. In the past, we hadn't been born yet, so we couldn't do anything to them. Now that you and I have been born, we can't allow them to continue causing trouble in the sinkhole. These Xiantian ferocious beasts should be cleaned up. Nodding, the sinkhole said with a murderous expression, how could they allow outsiders to cause trouble in their own territory? As for whether or not they could kill the Xiantian ferocious beasts, the sinkhole had no pressure at all. After all, this was their birthplace. The power of the entire sinkhole would be augmented by them, allowing them to unleash power close to that of primordial chaos Daluo Jinxian. With Yuan Yu joining forces, even if the real primordial chaos Daluo Jinxian came and fought with them in the sinkhole, he might not end up well. However, the sinkhole actually didn't want to kill the Xiantian ferocious beasts. They were first-generation Xiantian ferocious beasts. As long as there were enough resources, every one of them could advance to the level of Daluo Jinxian or even higher. These Xiantian ferocious beasts represented top-notch combat strength. If they could subdue all the Xiantian ferocious beasts in the sinkhole and integrate them into an army of Xiantian ferocious beasts, wouldn't the sinkhole be able to roam freely in the vast primordial world? Just thinking about it made them happy. It was very difficult to subdue Xiantian ferocious beasts. There was almost no chance of success. However, there was a way. Without trying it personally, how would they know that it was impossible? What if they succeeded? Moreover, the sinkhole and Feng Zichen were one and the same. They also had the marks of the 3,000 chaos fiend gods. With this foundation, they might not be unable to succeed. Sister, let's go. With a plan in mind, the sinkhole led Yuan Yu towards the Xiantian ferocious beasts. On the other side, the mental demon received the sinkhole's message and hurriedly rushed to the west. As the former headquarters of the demon sect, it was also the place where the primordial world's murderous aura was the densest. If the demon sect were to return to the primordial world, the Western continent would definitely be their first choice. Therefore, the current demon sect's base must be in the Western continent. In fact, the main reason why the demon sect chose the Western continent was because the Western continent was too barren. As a result, they lacked resources and there were almost no experts. This also allowed the demon sect to occupy most of the Western continent without any pressure. If the demon sect chose the Eastern continent, they would definitely face the collective counterattack of the native forces of the East. In this way, even if the demon sect defeated the native forces of the East and occupied the vast Eastern continent, their vitality would definitely be greatly damaged. That would not be worth the loss. After all, it was useless for the demon sect to have spiritual energy. Therefore, their original lair, the Western continent, became their first choice. Of course, The mental demon had another motive for rushing to the Western continent apart from guessing that the demon sect was here. That was to attack the Western sect. As the saying goes, a mountain cannot accommodate two tigers. Since there was a Western sect in the Western continent, if the demon sect wanted to continue preaching in the Western continent, they would definitely have a conflict with the Western sect. Moreover, the ancestral court of the demon sect, Mount Meru, had now become the ancestral court of the Western sect. As such, the demon sect could not tolerate it. In addition, the demon sect and the Western sect were inextricably linked. They were almost of the same origin. The demon sect and the Western sect were destined to only exist. As the saying goes, heretics were often more terrifying than heretics. Both sides coexisted in the West and would definitely fight. With the strength of the Western sect, they were definitely not a match for the demon sect. However, the Western sect was the inheritance of two saints after all. The demon sect could not take it down in a short period of time. As such, the Western sect temporarily went into hiding and waited for the return of the two saints to settle the gains and losses with the demon sect. This point was something that the mental demon could not allow. He could not forget his mission. He was destined to be entangled with the Western sect for the rest of his life. Therefore he came. He wanted to give the Western sect retribution. Of course, don't misunderstand. The mental demon was not here to help the demon sect. He was here to develop his forces. The disciples of the Western sect were taught by the two saints. Their talent might not be very good, but in terms of perseverance, they were definitely good. These were all good seedlings for cultivation. If all of them fell into the demonic path, the scene would definitely be very beautiful. At the very least, Zhuan Ti would definitely go crazy with anger. That's right. The mental demon did not come here to kill the disciples of the Western sect, but to lure them into the demonic path. It would be too wasteful to simply kill the disciples of the Western sect. It would not achieve the goal of venting his anger. It would also help the enemy and help the demon sect rule the Western sect faster. Therefore, the mental demon thought of a brilliant idea to lure the disciples of the Western sect into the demonic path. If the sinkhole wanted to become the new master of the demon sect, he had to have his own team. But where did these teams come from? It was too troublesome to nurture them one by one. It was also time-consuming and energy-consuming. Coincidentally, the Western sect had a group of ready-made disciples with good aptitude. Moreover, according to the theory that after falling into the demonic path, their aptitude and strength would be higher. After these disciples of the Western sect fell into the demonic path, their strength would definitely soar. This time, wouldn't the sinkholes team be here? This plan could be said to be brilliant. Not only could he obtain a large force out of thin air, but he could also vent the anger in his heart and anger Zhuan Ti. He could also obtain the strength to fight against the temporary demon sect. It could be said to be killing 3 birds with 1 stone. The Netherworld, the 9 underworlds, the Ghost Emperor of Fengdu, the Nether River Sect Master, and the Earth Empress took advantage of the opportunity when a chaos demon god was alone to attack and suppress him. After succeeding in their attack, the 3 of them immediately retreated, not daring to stay for a moment. Bastard! Where are you going? You captured our people and still want to leave? Dream on. Stay. In the depths of the 9 underworlds, when they sensed the actions of the Ghost Emperor Fengdu and the other 2, the Chaos Demon Gods were all furious. They attacked one after another and grabbed at the 3 of them, determined to make them stay. If the 3 of them joined forces to kidnap one of their companions in front of them, they would lose a lot of face. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it would be the shame of their lives. How could the incomparably arrogant Chaos Demon Gods endure this? Divine powers that could not be described with words surged out from the depths of the 9 underworlds and blasted toward the 3 of them. Boom, boom, boom. Heaven and earth were wailing, and the myriad Tao was trembling. The rules stopped operating at this moment, as if they could not withstand the pressure brought by the chaos demon gods and were about to collapse. There was no need to look back. The ghost emperor Fundu and the other two also knew what kind of danger was behind them. Without a doubt, if they were hit by these divine powers, there was no way they could survive. Their bodies would definitely be destroyed and their true spirits would collapse. Speaking of which, if it was a one-on-one battle, the three of them might not be afraid of the chaos demon gods. They might even be able to kill them. After all, no matter how strong the chaos demon gods were, they belonged to their previous lives. Now, they were only a part of their bodies and a part of their true spirits. They were not very strong. However, what the ghost emperor Fundu and the other two were facing was not the attack of one chaos demon god, but the attack of nearly 100 chaos demon gods. Even if they were confident in their own strength, they did not think that they could survive such an attack. Even if a saint came, he would be blasted into pieces. Break for me! Just as the three of them were retreating rapidly, the chaos demon god that was suppressed by them was unwilling to be sealed just like that. He struggled with all his might, trying to escape from the three of them. This also caused the three of them who were escaping to have to increase the power of suppressing the chaos demon god in their hands to prevent him from escaping. Under this influence, the speed of the three of them inevitably decreased, and they were gradually caught up by the divine powers that were surging over. Seeing that the three of them were about to die under these divine powers, in the depths of the netherworld, where the 6 paths of reincarnation disc was, a terrifying fluctuation suddenly came. Boom! The vast power of reincarnation gushed out from the 6 paths of reincarnation disc and swept everything. It ignored time and space and directly appeared behind the three of them, facing the divine powers that were attacking them. This was Huti's attack. She activated the Chaos Treasure, the 6 paths of reincarnation disc, to block these divine powers for the Ghost Emperor Fundu and the other two. After that, it was much simpler. Like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves, those powerful divine powers were wiped out by the power of reincarnation without causing the slightest ripple. They collapsed into the most basic runes and scattered between heaven and earth. What was reincarnation? From birth to death, from the beginning to the end, from the past to the future. Huti's attack seemed very simple, but in fact it involved the power of time. It was called the reincarnation of time, and it could beat everything back to the origin. No matter how powerful your divine powers are, how much power can you retain after I beat it back to its original state? The power of reincarnation was strange and unpredictable, and it could be said to be one of the greatest powers in the world. Those who jumped out of reincarnation could achieve eternity. It could be seen how terrifying this power was. Descendant of Panguyu, taking a deep look at Hutu, the chaos demon god knew that with her attack, the people could not be saved. Although he was angry, he did not attack and continued to be silent. The 9 underworlds fell into silence again. With the 6 paths of reincarnation disc, unless they recovered the cultivation of their previous life, they would not be a match for Hutu. Since that was the case, why should they humiliate themselves and attack Hutu? As for the fellow Taoist who was captured, he could only blame himself for being unlucky. Why did he wander around for no reason? Now, someone had found an opportunity to capture him. Just take it as a lesson. Anyway, he would not die. On the other side, the Ghost Emperor Fundu brought the captured Chaos Demon God back to the hinterland of the Nether Realm. Thank you, fellow Taoists. After using the Nether Realm's origin to suppress the Chaos Demon God, the Ghost Emperor of Fundu thanked the two. This time he asked Hutu and Nether River Patriarch to help him capture a Chaos Demon God to refine the Demon God flag. Don't mention it, fellow Taoist. It's just a small matter. Besides, besieging and killing the Chaos Demon God is what we should do. Even if Taoists did not invite us, we would have taken action. The two waved their hands and replied, "The Chaos Demon God was the public enemy of the primitive world. As long as there was no problem with their stance, everyone had the same interest in dealing with the Chaos Demon God. Fellow Taoist, why do you suddenly want to capture a Chaos Demon God? Is it useful?" Nether River Patriarch asked curiously. Chapter 561. He could not be blamed for being curious. He could understand killing a Chaos Demon God, but he could not understand capturing one alive. When one's strength reached their level, any torture would be meaningless. So what if they captured a Chaos Demon God alive? They would not be able to get anything out of him. Poor Wei wants to refine a Khanate numinous treasure, and she needs a Chaos Demon God. Only by ensuring the integrity of the Chaos Demon God can we refine the most perfect numinous treasure. The Fengdu Ghost Emperor smiled and explained. He captured the Chaos Demon God to refine the Demon God flag. There was nothing to hide about that. As for why he wanted him alive, it was naturally to refine a higher grade Demon God flag. A Khanate numinous treasure refined by sacrificing a Chaos Demon God alive would definitely be stronger than a Khanate numinous treasure refined from a Chaos Demon God's corpse. Since there was a chance to capture a Chaos Demon God alive, there was no reason for the Fengdu Ghost Emperor to miss it. After all, the stronger the power of the Demon God flag, the greater the damage to the Khanate ferocious beasts. At the same time, it could cause some trouble for the demon sect. If Fengdu could refine a supreme grade Khanate numinous treasure Demon God flag, then the acquired Demon God flag in the demon sect's hands would be useless. From then on, the Khanate ferocious beasts would no longer be controlled by the demon sect. That would undoubtedly be a huge blow to the demon sect. Refine a treasure? Refine a treasure with a Chaos Demon God? Hearing this, the Nether River Patriarch seemed to be uncertain and asked in return. The Fengdu Ghost Emperor only nodded to show that he was telling the truth. Fellow Taoist, what a great ability! Refining a treasure with a Chaos Demon God. It's... Patriarch Nether River's face twitched. He did not know what to say about the Fengdu Ghost Emperor's boldness. Only he could think of refining a treasure with a Chaos Demon God. This was simply like splitting the heavens and splitting the earth apart. Truly audacious. However, he had to admit that it was a great idea. At first, Patriarch Nether River was shocked by the Fengdu Ghost Emperor's idea. However, he thought about it and felt that it was a great idea. Other than Khanate existences, Khanate numinous treasures were mostly born from nature. It was difficult to refine them. According to the current environment, it would be difficult to breed a new Khanate numinous treasure in the future, which meant that Khanate numinous treasures. After all, the rarer something is, the more precious it is. Of course, there was another way to refine Khanate numinous treasures. Khanate numinous treasures could definitely be refined using Khanate god fiends as materials. However, that technique was resisted by all the Khanate god fiends in the primordial world. Therefore, this method could not be used. But now, with the Fengdu Ghost Emperor's reminder, the Nether River Patriarch seemed to have opened up a whole new world. That's right. If Khanate god fiends could be used to refine Khanate numinous treasures, the stronger Chaos Fiend Celestials could do the same. Moreover, Khanate spirit treasures refined from Chaos Demon Gods were definitely stronger than those refined from Khanate gods. What was even more amazing was that this method would not be resisted by the crowd. Moreover, as long as this method was spread out, the great mediums of the untainted land might take the initiative to hunt down the Chaos Demonic God. What a great idea! Why didn't he think of it? At this moment, the Nether River Patriarch was truly in awe of the Fengdu Ghost Emperor. No wonder, he was the master of the Een Court and ruled over the life and death of all beings. On the other hand, he could only stay in a corner of the nether realm and be a marquis. His brain was not as fast as the Fengdu ghost emperor's. At this moment, the Nether River Patriarch's eyes were glowing green when he looked at the 9 underworlds again. He was like a person who had starved for 3 days and suddenly saw a delicacy. How was this a dangerous place? It was clearly a huge treasure trove. In the eyes of the Nether River Patriarch, the Chaos Fiend Celestials in the 9 underworlds were no longer terrifying existences, but walking connate numinous treasures. If not for his lack of strength, the Nether River Patriarch really wanted to charge into the 9 underworlds and suppress all the Chaos Fiend Celestials so that he could refine them into connate numinous treasures. Fellow Taoist, the poor way is in a hurry to refine numinous treasures, so I will take my leave first. The Fengdu Ghost Emperor's words interrupted the Nether River Patriarch's reverie. By the time he came to his senses, the Fengdu Ghost Emperor had already brought the suppressed Chaos Fiend Celestials to the 6 paths of reincarnation disc. Wait, fellow Taoist Fengdu, please wait for the poor way. Let the poor way see what kind of numinous treasure it is that it requires an entire Chaos Fiend Celestial. Seeing the Fengdu Ghost Emperor leave, the Nether River Patriarch quickly followed. He was not really curious about what kind of numinous treasure the Fengdu Ghost Emperor was going to refine. He was curious about how the Fengdu Ghost Emperor was going to deal with the Chaos Fiend Celestials. It was not difficult to refine connate numinous treasures with the dead Chaos Fiend Celestials as materials. Any great expert in the primordial world could do it. However, it was rare and extremely difficult to refine connate numinous treasures with the living Chaos Fiend Celestials as materials. One had to know that since the Chaos Fiend Celestials were not dead, how could they be willing to be refined into numinous treasures? Of course, they would resist all means. They would rather die than suffer such humiliation. If things went wrong, the Chaos Fiend Celestials would seize the opportunity to self-destruct, not to mention refining numinous treasures. Even the Fengdu Ghost Emperor might not survive. However, with Fengdu's intelligence, he would never have thought of this. Looking at how confident he was, it was obvious that he had a solution. Therefore, the Nether River Patriarch was curious about how the Fengdu Ghost Emperor was going to deal with the Chaos Fiend Celestials. These were all experience points. If he learned it, he might have a chance to test it himself in the future. It should not be difficult to catch a Chaos Fiend Celestial in the primordial world now, right? Just like that. The few of them arrived at the 6 paths of reincarnation disc. Empress, poor Wei wants to ask you for a favor. The Fengdu Ghost Emperor said as he walked to the Empress of Earth. He wanted the Empress of Earth to activate the 6 paths of reincarnation disc and use the power of reincarnation to erase all the intelligence of the Chaos Fiend Celestials and wash them into a piece of white paper. In this way, he would not have to worry about the resistance of the Chaos Fiend Celestials during the refining process. The path of reincarnation covered everything, not to mention washing the Chaos Fiend Celestials into a piece of white paper. It was not impossible to beat the Chaos Fiend Celestials into the mortal world. Sure, the Empress of Earth had no reason to refuse the Fengdu Ghost Emperor's request, so she nodded in agreement. In fact, even without the Empress of Earth, the Fengdu Ghost Emperor could still activate the 6 paths of reincarnation disc. One had to know that he also had a part of the reincarnation authority, but it was not as great as the Empress of Earth's authority. However, he still had the power to wash the Chaos Fiend Celestials into a piece of white paper. However, the Empress of Earth was the true master of reincarnation. Out of respect for the Empress of Earth rarely used this part of the reincarnation authority. After taking the Chaos Fiend Celestials from the Fengdu Ghost Emperor, the Empress of Earth directly threw him into the reincarnation wheel. Then, before the Chaos Fiend Celestials could react, Empress of Earth used the Dao Seal to activate the 6 paths of reincarnation disc. Rumble. The 6 paths of reincarnation rotated loudly, and the terrifying reincarnation power rolled out toward the chaos fiend celestials, invading his primordial spirit and true spirit, and began to wash away his memories. Splash! The reincarnation power was like flowing water, brushing the chaos fiend celestial's true spirit over and over again, washing away his memories and obliterating his intelligence. Gradually, the chaos fiend celestial's eyes turned from lively to numb, then to confused, and finally to blank out. He had lost himself. He had completely forgotten everything about himself. It's time. Seeing this, the Fengdu Ghost Emperor knew that it was time to refine the treasure. He kept drawing with his hands, carving mysterious runes in the void, gradually forming a mysterious divine restriction. This divine restriction was somewhat similar to the divine restriction that formed the fiend celestial flag, but it seemed to be more mysterious and full of spiritual vigor. The innate divine restriction. This divine restriction was filled with mysterious, innate Taoist rhymes. Without a doubt, this was an innate divine restriction. With the help of the creation jade disk fragment, Feng Zichen used the acquired divine restriction that formed the fiend celestial flag as the foundation to further deduce it, turning it into an innate divine restriction. This was also the reason why the Fengdu Ghost Emperor had the confidence to refine the fiend celestial flag into an innate spiritual treasure. Otherwise, even if the chaos fiend celestials were to refine an innate spiritual treasure, it would not be the fiend celestial flag. In a few breaths, the Ghost Emperor of Fengdu Ghost Emperor drew 9 innate divine restrictions in the air. As soon as the 9 innate divine restrictions appeared, they interlocked and gradually formed the illusion of a huge flag. It was the fiend celestial flag. Now, as long as he poured enough innate origin into the illusion of the fiend celestial flag, he would be able to obtain an inferior grade innate spiritual treasure. Go! At this moment, the Ghost Emperor of Fengdu Ghost Emperor stopped drawing runes. Instead, he pointed at the illusion of the fiend celestial flag and sent it to the chaos fiend celestial's head. Refine! Fengdu pointed at the chaos fiend celestial from afar, and his body suddenly split open. Streams of blood gushed out and surged toward the illusion of the fiend celestial flag. At the same time, the power of reincarnation rolled in and washed the fiend celestial's blood, turning it into the most origin for the fiend celestial flag to absorb. Under the nourishment of the fiend celestial's blood, the fiend celestial flag quickly gained a physical form. Whoosh! A hazy, clear light suddenly separated from the chaos fiend celestial's spiritual sea and entered the fiend celestial flag. In an instant, the 9 innate divine restrictions that formed the fiend celestial flag pulsed and surged into the clear light. That was the chaos fiend celestial's indestructible true spirit. Under Fengdu's control, it had turned into the innate, inextinguishable spirit light of the fiend celestial flag. In this way, the fiend celestial flag had officially become an innate spiritual treasure, an inferior grade innate spiritual treasure with 9 innate divine restrictions. Although its level was relatively low, it was fortunate that the treasure had yet to be fully refined. Next, the Fengdu Ghost Emperor continued to inscribe innate divine restrictions into the fiend celestial flag one after another to upgrade its level. It was only when the chaos fiend celestial's physical body had completely turned into nothingness that the Fengdu Ghost Emperor's refinement of the treasure ended. The fiend celestial flag now had 37 innate divine restrictions and was barely on the verge of becoming a supreme grade innate spiritual treasure. It had met Fengdu's requirements. After all, what he had obtained was only a part of the complete chaos fiend celestial. Otherwise, he would have been able to refine a top-grade innate spiritual treasure, if not a connate cardinal treasure. However, even so, Fengdu was very satisfied. The spiritual treasure had been refined. Of course, he had to test its power. Therefore, the Fengdu Ghost Emperor bade farewell to the others, took the Fiend Celestial flag, and walked towards the 9th underworld. Good treasure, don't disappoint me. The Fengdu Ghost Emperor did not dare to get too close to the 9th underworld for fear of being surrounded and killed by the Chaos Fiend Celestial. He began to activate the Fiend Celestial flag from afar. He waved the Fiend Celestial flag at the group of innate ferocious beasts. In the next moment, the innate ferocious beasts that were attacking the netherworld suddenly stopped in their tracks and looked around in confusion. It works. Seeing this, the Fengdu Ghost Emperor was a little surprised and hurriedly continued to wave the Fiend Celestial flag. As the Fiend Celestial flag was waved, Fengdu gradually felt that he had established some connection with the innate ferocious beasts. Relying on this connection, although he could not completely control these innate ferocious beasts, he could use some simple orders to make these innate ferocious beasts change their minds. This did not seem to be very useful, but it was actually very useful. Killing each other. He could use this method to make the innate ferocious beasts kill each other. He could also order the innate ferocious beasts to directly charge into the innate killing array and die. With this treasure, the chaos of the innate ferocious beasts is no longer a threat. Holding the Fiend Celestial flag in his hand tightly, Fengdu nodded to himself. Now he just had to wait for Gaochen to come and take it away to help Fushi quell the chaos of the ferocious beasts and push the human race to the throne of the world. How dare you? Just as Fengdu was thinking, the Chaos Fiend Celestial in the 9th underworld sensed the change here and suddenly roared. Suddenly, the violent Chaos Fiend Celestial Qi wantonly spread out, and the innate ferocious beasts were in an uproar. They broke free from the control of the Fiend Celestial flag and continued to attack the netherworld. Go back! Fengdu activated the power of the Fiend Celestial flag to the extreme and shook it violently. In an instant, a vast, ancient, and tyrannical aura swept out and enveloped the entire battlefield. Roars of extreme fear came from the innate ferocious beasts in the air. Then, as if they had been greatly frightened, they frantically fled backward. Bastard! Go back! The Chaos Fiend Celestial's furious voice came from the depths of the 9th underworld. Obviously, he was extremely angry that the innate ferocious beasts had broken free from his control. At the same time, he was also trying to regain control of the innate ferocious beasts. Unfortunately, the Fiend Celestial flag in Fengdu's hand could simulate a trace of the Chaos Fiend Celestial's power when he was at his peak. It was far from what these broken Chaos Fiend Celestials could compare to. Therefore, he alone could not suppress these frightened, innate, ferocious beasts. In the end, all the Chaos Fiend Celestials in the 9th underworld acted together to pacify these innate, ferocious beasts, allowing them to continue attacking the netherworld. At this time, the Fiend Celestial flag was not very effective. It was not that the Fiend Celestial flag was not strong enough, but that there were too many Chaos Fiend Celestials on the other side. But even so, Fengdu was already very satisfied. The Fiend Celestial flag was refined to deal with the innate ferocious beasts in the wilderness. There were not as many innate Fiend Celestials there as there were in the netherworld. Didn't this mean that the Fiend Celestial flag was an invincible existence in driving innate Fiend Celestials in the wilderness? After testing the power of the Fiend Celestial flag, Fengdu returned to his palace and waited for Gaochen's arrival. While Fengdu was refining the Fiend Celestial flag, the wilderness was not calm either. At the shore of the East Sea, in the ancestral land of the human race, all races of the wilderness, whether they were innate or acquired, gathered here. It seemed that something big was about to happen. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.